Yo, yo, mic check 1 2 1 2, mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on to the people out there? You know what? Let's go ahead and start getting some people in this room. How you guys doing? How you feeling? Man, we got a few things to talk about today. For sure, for sure. Let me see where we're at on the. I know we're live right now. I'm gonna try to find it. Here we go. Here we go. Man, the Hot Boys you reunited last night. It was crazy. Hold on, let me get my other joint up. Yo, OG Weston in the building. We got Jordan House in the building. What's good, Jordan House, man? We got a music person in the building. Poets and rhymes always showing love. Rhymers, excuse me. Oh man, I want to start this off, man. We got a whole lot to cover today. First things first. I want to start this off by saying rest in peace to the legendary, the great Quincy Jones. Um, man, Quincy Jones did so much for music that it can't even really be quantified. For those who, know him for his work with Michael Jackson, obviously, I can't even begin to speak on Quincy's work. Just know that his beginnings come from before Frank Sinatra. Obviously, you got Ray Charles. So in our era, Quincy was mostly known for, again, Michael and the things that he did to break stars like Will Smith, Oprah Winfrey, and many others. But Will Smith spoke out about, how much Quincy means to him and the relationship that him and Quincy had, and him getting Quincy on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, taking a chance on him as a star, as a rapper, turning to an actor. It's one of those things, man. Yeah, man. Max said Quincy Jones, Phil Jackson, of music. I found a picture where it was Rod Temperton, it was Bruce Sweeten, it was Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones, and they also have Vincent Price in the photo as well. And it's from the Philo sessions. And yeah, it really puts you in the mind of that Phil Jackson type of figure. And when we talk about production and producers, we have this conversation here a lot on According to Hip Hop about production as in terms of hip hop production, right? Um, Hip hop production and traditional forms of being a producer are two different things, because as hip hop artists and hip hop fans, we look at being a producer as that person that's going to make the beat. You make that beat, you send that beat to the artist, or you construct that hook or that concept or whatever. Boom, you're the producer. The traditional hint of being a producer, and in the way that Quincy Jones did it, was he was the arranger and he was the one that went out there and found the individual. So as you speak to Phil Jackson, when you think about that team of thriller individuals, where it comes to Michael, Rod Temperton, Bruce Sweeten, who was the engineer, of course, and many musicians that were involved in these projects, Quincy Jones was not only the Phil Jackson, but he was also kind of like the GM here. He went there and found that talent and then pulled these talents together for them to go out there and do what they did. I would kind of liken him to a Phil Jackson and also a Jerry Krause in a sense, and where Michael Jackson would be Michael Jordan and Rod Temperton would be, you could say Rod Temperton's a bit of a Phil Jackson, the stuff that he made, and a Bruce Sweeten would be more of a Tex Winners, the Triangle Offense. What up, everybody out there? Respect to you guys as well. But yes, man, I always talk about this, and I said this with the last major passing we had in music. A piece of history dies with that person. There's so much history that died with the great Quincy Jones. He's one of the last ones left of that era. Berry Gordy, he's around. He's one of those OGs from that era. I mean, we think about, people like Smokey Robinson and even Diana Ross, incredible legends, icons. They're slightly, years younger than Quincy and Berry Gordy. So when you lose somebody like Quincy Jones with that much history and those many stories and that much insight and that much talent, that is a major blow to the game. But I will say this, man, Quincy lived a full life. He accomplished so much, and he was able to actually tell these stories and speak on many of these stories. And you got documentaries, you got you have insight from other people. But I'm looking forward to the the people that are going to come out and speak on even more stories and more intel and insight that Quincy was able to give them through the years. Most recently, I don't know if you guys saw that Quincy Jones documentary that is on, I think it's on Netflix. I'm getting confused with Netflix and Prime because Megan has a documentary on Prime that I think we're going to speak a little bit about as well. But Quincy has a documentary. I believe it's on Netflix. I've seen it many, many times. And Kendrick Lamar is featured in there, and so is Dr. Dre. And when you have people like Kendrick Lamar sitting down and getting game from Quincy and just hearing how he interacts with them and telling his story, talking about how his story culminates and, you know, collides with how they came up, it's amazing to watch. Thumbs up in the chat, everybody. Thumbs up in the chat. Didn't Quincy try to flip it Tupac? Listen, man. I mean, that's what people say. It was rumor. I don't know. I don't know any of those, you know, details or whatever. And I'm sure that people got stories like that. Then, you know, unfortunately, you're gonna hear a whole lot of stories. But you just threw me off with that one, Posing Roberts. But what I was gonna say, Dr. Dre, he specifically, and I think he just did an Instagram post. Let me actually pull up Dr. Dre's post so he can say it in his own words. But he did say that Quincy Jones is the reason that he became a producer. Dr. Dre says, Quincy is the reason why I decided to become a record producer. His records were my go-to when I started engineering. All the time that I spent hanging out with him was priceless, and I love how open he was. The advice he gave me and the conversations that we have helped me in my life and career, forever inspired by the incomparable Quincy Jones. Now, we know what Dr. Dre means to hip hop, and we know what Dr. Dre means to music, you know, in these, you know, few decades. And I've always said that I think that Dr. Dre's biggest gift, his greatest gift, is his engineering power and his ability to engineer and how clear his production sounds. And if Quincy Jones inspired him to be able to do that to the level that he does that, that tells you a little bit about who Quincy Jones was as a producer. He was much, much more than that. Many of you may know or don't know, he started Vibe magazine. So his cultural impact is all over the place. You know, even though he's not here anymore, you can't escape the cultural impact of somebody like Quincy Jones. I'm sure you just got finished playing Thriller a million times over the past week, Halloween. So rest in peace to Quincy Jones, one of our greats, one of the greatest. I don't even want to say one of our greats, one of the greatest ever to do it. And the impact that he's had on our lives is, you know, immeasurable. And we thank the heavens and the highest for his life and his accomplishments. Yes, but this is a nice transition. I mean, I want to talk about Dr. Dre and Snoop's new song. Thumbs up in the chat, everybody. Did you guys hear Gorgeous? Because Halloween, I came here, sat down with a mask on once we got the track list for this Missionary album. That's going to be Snoop's new album, totally produced by Dr. Dre. So the excitement and all that's real. For y'all that might have missed that, you know, the replay's out there. But anyways, when the track list came out for Missionary, I got up here on live, talked about how much I anticipated this project. I think that it is the most anticipated hip hop album since I've been doing this show. It's because I've been in this space. I think that Dr. Dre and Snoop are the greatest rapper producer combination of all time. And I have very, very high expectations for this project just because of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, Snoop is who he is, and Dr. Dre is who he is. They haven't done this as a collective in a very, very long time, dating back to 1993, if we're going to be honest, for a full project. But we've heard what they can do throughout, you know, time. So my expectations for this project were and are through the roof. Now, when I saw all the features on there, I was like, I don't know. I don't know. Those are the only things that gave me a bit of a drawback. And when I saw the album cover, not a big fan of the album cover. Some of you guys out there are. And I think when I'm talking about the album cover, I'm thinking about, you know, Doggy Style, that album cover, one of the greatest album covers of all time. I'm glad that they didn't try to go duplicate something because that always comes across as corny. But I wasn't sure if the creativity was at that level the Doggy Style was at. Boom. Fast forward, saying all that to say, they released a single on Friday. And I'm like, okay, I know my I know that I'm expecting a lot from these guys who are in the latter parts of their careers. And so I'm like, okay, well, what am I gonna hear with this gorgeous record? So I press play on it, and I'm like, this is really great. I can't say anything flawed about Gorgeous. I mean, I'll first listen without being super nitpicky. I don't people asking if Nas and Primo dropping the album. I don't see that happening, to be honest with you guys. I think that was more of the fans speaking than them speaking. But anyway, Gorgeous. Huh. So I didn't know what I was going to get from this. Janae Aiko is on there. So obviously that's a hold on one second, guys. I want to make sure my signal and all that stuff is in the right place. All right, sorry guys. I had to switch networks real quick. Anyway, Gorgeous, right? Janae Aiko is on there, and when I heard the production, I was like, okay, I like where they're going. And I heard Snoop coming in the way that he did, and then I heard the hook and then the melodies, and I'm like, oh no, this is dope. And for them to drop this as the first single, it says a lot, right? It says a lot about where they're going with this. I know Dr. Dre said that they were going to go in more of a grown-up wave, but to me, I'm gonna be real. This is the best. Trying to think recently, talk about rap stuff. It's the best Dr. Dre produced song that I've heard in a minute. And so when I heard this song, it made me feel like, yo, these guys are really taking this serious. Not that I didn't think that they would. I mean, I think when I even announced that I felt that they were really going to do this album, that I knew that Dre was taking this serious. But based on the tone that's being set with Gorgeous, I think we're gonna get a really, really good album. And I know I said before, the anticipation for these two coming together and being who they are at this stage in their career to album of the year candidate. I'm going to make a bold prediction here. The show's all about bold predictions. And maybe it's not too bold of a prediction for you guys out there. Based on this single, based on this track list, and based on the fact that we got two juggernauts like Snoop and Dr. Dre coming together, I'm going to predict this is going to be 2024's hip hop album of the year. And I'm that impressed with Gorgeous as a first single with all of the pressures that would come with a collaboration like this. And the fact that Dr. Dre would jump into this and actually do this at this stage lets you know that he's very, very proud of the music that he's making. Snoop makes music a lot more frequently than Dre, so it's hard to judge it on that. You're not really hearing Snoop talk too much about it. I think Snoop's just excited to be in the studio with Dre again, period. Now, one thing I will say, if I'm going to be nitpicky here, and I want to know what you guys think of the song because you guys ain't saying nothing in the chat right now. I mean, I appreciate the fact you let me talk, but don't look, am I gassing this up? Like, is this song like that? Or, you know what I'm saying? Or am I overblowing this? One of the things I will say, you could tell how much of a perfectionist Dr. Dre is on the track. And sometimes, I mean, most of the time, it's I'm overhyping a mediocre song. Okay, I'll take that. Um, Sometimes what happens when you're a perfectionist, you don't let things naturally flow, right? Like I've always said, like on 2001, the album Chronic 2001, you could hear the syncopated flow that everybody seems to have to go on when they're rhyming on the Dr. Dre track. You guys just saying the song's all right. Wow, okay. One thing I will say about the song, I do think that you could tell Snoop did a bunch of takes, right? And you could tell that Snoop is punching in. And it sounds syncopated in a way where it's it's not as free flowing as the Snoop that we know without Dre. And I think there is a bit of a magic to that because that's kind of Snoop's whole personality. His whole personality is not about um, what I'm saying, making things just I would say crisp and very technical. Let me say it like that. Snoop Dogg's not about being a technical rapper. And on that song, I could see someone, breaking that up and saying, okay, well, that sounds technically perfect, if you will. But other than that, man, I mean, what gripes do you guys have with the song? They said Snoop sounds like an amateur. Listen, man, this is what I refuse to do in this space. I think that, when we get in a space where we're talking about music and we're critiquing music and it's fine, I think sometimes we don't give credit where credit's due when we get something good. We feel like we gotta pick it apart. And I honestly don't think that there's anything here. Like, yeah, if you think the song is just okay, I disagree with that. But I don't think it's mid. I don't think it's one of those things, man. Like, what can we say bad about the song? Is the beat average or something? I think the beat's above average. I think the hook is dope. You know what I'm saying? I think that the bars on there are dope. I think it's a record that I could hear on the radio. It's a record that I could hear in the winter seasons. It's a record that I could hear in Cali. I mean, I have no problem with it. I think it's a dope record, and I think it's a dope first look. Now, are we looking for something to be still DRE in 2024? Well, listen, still DRE just celebrated its 25th anniversary. 25 years since we had that record. In my opinion, that's one of the greatest hip hop songs ever made. So it's like, we really standing it up to that. I mean, production wise, that shit is different. I don't expect Dr. Dre to make that at this stage in his career, but I do think that, there is a standard that is very, very high for who they are. But come on, man. Y'all want to still DRE? I don't even know if we would appreciate a still DRE even if we got it. So I mean, I think this record's dope. I mean, if I'm rating this song, I'm definitely giving this. I'm gonna give this around an 8.5 out of 10. I mean, based on and that's even based on their standards. So I don't have any real problem with the record. You know what? I think I'm gonna need a second voice in here. I think we got Siobhan in here, man. I want to see what other people think about this record, or if I'm tripping, or if I'm giving Dre and Snoop too many props. Yo, Vaughn, what's up, man?
What's good?
How we doing?
I'm good. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. Hold on, man. I think that did your signal look good over there?
Yeah. I'm delaying or something.
Yeah, it looks like sketchy, and it might be my fault because I was on the wrong network. If you want to jump out and jump back in and see if that fixes it real quick.
All right, I got you.
Yeah, jump back out and jump back in. Yep. But yeah, I want to see if I'm tripping or if this record's really dope. Did you guys like that Freddie though? Because I thought the Freddie was dope too. No, the Freddie shit's crazy. A minute to some reason. I already know Mad Max didn't like it. You know what I'm saying? Mad Max is probably like, yo, it's trash. Let's see. Real Little Washington says something. Shout out to our mods in the building. He says, I think you're giving the song a hall pass, Mike. If it wasn't Dre and Snoop, we wouldn't even be talking about it at all. I disagree, man. I think it's a dope song. I think it's a dope record. Mad Max didn't even like the Freddie. Listen. All right, there you go. You look a lot better. FAMU, man. You got the homecoming and everything. Yes. FAMU alumni in the building.
Yeah, man. We did our thing at homecoming. Got that W.
There it is. Who'd y'all play?
Who did we play?
It don't matter. No one ever knows who folks play at home.
No, I didn't go. We beat them like 53 to 20 something. Nah, we gonna put their name out here who we beat too.
You not gonna spare him?
Yeah, nah. I ain't gonna spare him at all. How fast I forgot. That's
I'll find out real quick while you talk about this Dr. Dre and Snoop song. What did you think about the Dre and Snoop record? Let me just say, Snoop's record, gorgeous, produced by Dr. Dre.
We beat Texas Southern, by the way. That's what.
Okay, Texas Southern. Okay,
Southern. All right. So the Snoop record, it was smooth. It wasn't as big as impactful as I thought it would be, but it was like it gave me assurance that I know that this album is coming. You know, because with Dre, it's like you get the detox treatment sometimes where it's like he'll say they're working on something over and over again, and it's like it just gives people false hopes. And I think that Marshall album kind of set it off that now we can believe that when he's locked in on something, it's coming. So that single gave me a good reassurance that it's coming. But it's a safe record. If this sets the tone of what the album is gonna be, it's interesting. I could see. I have no problems with the production. The production is smooth. Vocals are smooth. I like that Snoop is not really kind of changing up his way of being Snoop as well. He kind of going back to what we know about him as far as what he puts in his record as far as content. So I'm looking forward to it, man. This is older Snoop and Dre. I think this is gonna be a polished album. I think the songs are gonna be dope. I think the flow of the album is gonna be flawless. I like the transitions on the Marshall album. I know that some people didn't really dig it, but I think that was a different tone that he wanted to set for that. I think for this, the transitions, the album flow is gonna be real dope. So I'm really looking forward to how polished it sounds and how these songs come about.
Yeah. I mean, and back to your point about Dre and him not putting out stuff. I feel like when Dre, he's one of those folks, kind of like Andre 3000, where people will start hyping up something that ain't gonna happen. And I always feel like, and the same thing with Andre and with Q-Tip, people like that, I want to hear it from that person. Like you remember back when Ludacris or Lil Jon or whatever would say that, Ludacris, Usher, and Lil Jon, they were going to do an album or whatever. No, I want to hear that from Usher. You know what I'm saying? Or like, if there's going to be a quote unquote Outkast album, I hate to say it like this, I want to hear that from Andre. And then I might believe it. But when Dr. Dre jumped out here and was doing interviews talking about this album's coming, I'm like, okay, well, this might actually happen.
And they were doing them together,
A project has to make sense, right? The Chronic was to launch Death Row. 2001 was really to launch Aftermath. And, he had to do the Compton album for the NWA thing. And he had really no purpose for the Detox. Like there was nothing to launch really. And I think with this project, the purpose that I saw in it was after Snoop did the Olympics and how much of a fixture Snoop became in the Olympics, and the fact that the Olympics are coming to LA. They just did the Super Bowl not too long ago. I think that Dr. Dre probably feels that, since we're going to be pretty much the people carrying the torch in LA for this next Olympics, especially with Snoop making the mark that he made in this previous Olympics, we may need some new music. I'm tired of us going out there, continuously having to do Still DRE, continuously having to do next episode. It's 30 years later, you know what I'm saying? And I think that was something that probably made it make sense for them to come back together and actually do this album. But other than that, Dr. Dre really doesn't come outside unless there's a purpose for it. And and when he came out here doing interviews talking about this album, I'm like, okay, well, he's never really jumped out this far before.
Yeah, facts.
You know what I'm saying? And so when he started saying that, and then he said that, they're almost done with it. He's mixing the album now, and they're looking for a November date. I'm like, okay, well, this actually might happen. And then boom, you get a track list. Now, I will give you this. I do think that this first single is a safe single. And maybe I'm giving them hall passes because, again, this is Dre and Snoop. These guys are big, and there are big expectations that come with being a combination like this. I'm not mad at them for going the safe route as far as the listeners go and putting it in a position where it can't really be critiqued too much. You know what I'm saying? To
Yeah,
kill any type of momentum.
I don't have anything bad to say about the record.
Me either.
You know, I think the production is good. I like the Janae collab. I was looking at the track list and I was really seeing where they bringing in anybody that worked with them previously, like on 2001, or you know, just anybody from within that Aftermath camp. That's what I was looking at mainly. But I don't have expectations for it because I'm not looking at this album to sound like Doggy Style in 2024. Yeah. You know, so I guess my expectation is now how what is their creative juices going into on this pause? Like when you're thinking about this record, like what direction are they taking? How grown are they willing to take it? How far back on the roots are they going to go on here to try to recreate a moment? Like, I just want to hear how polished this sounds and creative wise what they do with it more so anything. I'm going to check it regardless because it's Dre and Snoop. But I just feel like it was a safe record and I'm looking forward to what's to come on it. And I think right now Dre's inspired production wise, and I feel like everything he's going to put out from here on out is going to be very polished and very good sonically.
Well, yeah, I think that quality is one thing, and I know it's kind of a vague statement when it comes to these guys, but I think sound quality is something that, yes, the expectations are there. That's something that we know is going to be there. Because in my opinion, I think Dre is the greatest hip-hop engineer that we've seen, or heard, rather. But I'm with you. I think that when we're talking about creatively, that right there is something that the expectations have to be there. I mean, like Exhibit always said, man, like never knew about the next level until Dre did it. So I'm sonically, and I don't think that's out of reach to say I'm sonically listening for possibly what could be a next wave in hip hop based on this project. Because like you said, the involvement, there's a lot of involvement, and it's not, no disrespect, and I see what they're doing. I'm looking at the features right now. It's not really a lot of OGs on there per se. There's a mixture, right? Not the OGs that we're used to. I don't really count people like Sting and obviously Tom Petty and folks like that, but they're keeping it very current, right? And so when you're doing that, I'm expecting you to come with a modernized sound because it almost puts you in the mindset that, okay, I didn't want to rock with some of these OGs that you guys might be familiar with that we work with because they're not really on no new shit. You know what I'm saying? So we got to come with some new shit. And I think that's what the expectation is too. And as a producer, I think you can do that. Those things can be accomplished. Like a rapper or an artist could sound ridiculous sometimes trying to adjust to the new shit, but a producer can always adjust to what's new and organically do so. Now, with that being said, and we know that Snoop Dogg is not like, you know, some 2-3 year veteran out here, but when it comes to the veterans in the game, Snoop is one of those veterans that adjusts to the times very well and always has embraced newer artists and newer sounds. He might talk all that, you know, everybody rapping the same way, yada, yada, but he's worked with everybody. You know what I'm saying? And so if that's the mission, I think that's something to look for. Now, as far as like subject matter content, I am not listening for Dr. Dre and Snoop to save the world on a record. I'm not sitting here waiting for Dr. Dre and Snoop to make a get out and vote record. I mean, I'm not expecting any of that. But sonically and just we're talking about just a new wave of something, I think that's something to expect from these two.
You know, I said previously, like when I started on here, that on the subject, that I don't expect anything, but then I do expect something. My expectation is a grown, mature sounding Dre and Snoop album. And that doesn't mean boring. That doesn't mean, you know, in the sense of content wise, that it's not still something that a younger demographic can digest. I just feel like It reminds me of when Snoop was doing like the album that had sexual seduction on it or sexual eruption on it, that album. And I feel like that had a good vibe of both. You know, that was the lead single, but he worked with a lot of young writers and producers on the album and gave him a chance, as he said Dre gave him. So I guess I'm kind of expecting a little bit of that mixed with this, and the fact that I think they know that this is the sequel to whatever. So this is, of course, going to be the grown version. So I expect this to actually have a concept that goes along with this album, as far as like how they do classic interludes or whatever. I kind of expect something out of this that kind of conceptually flows with the flow of the music as well. And that's one thing that we could say that's always included in it. And when you see Dre work with Snoop,
you're talking about the Ego Tripping album. All right, let's explore what you just said. And I think that's a really good point, and it's something that I do think needs to be talked about when we're talking about these two collaborating at this stage in their careers. When we talk about a grown-up album, and you say, you know, not boring, like what is a grown-up hip-hop album? And, you know, and we all know that, I mean, it's no disrespect. We all know that what is exciting in hip-hop is young energy, and most of the time, you know, young, wild topics and just young, wild energy. Like, what does a great grown-up hip-hop album sound like? And what type of topics can you cover that still can excite the hip-hop masses and do it in a grown-up fashion?
And, well, I don't know. I feel like Snoop, if there's anybody who knows how to do that, Snoop. You know, we mentioned the album, Ego Tripping. I mean, I feel like he did a good way of doing that and having that balance on there. I just feel like there's a few artists that have done it and it's like critically acclaimed, but I feel like there's artists who have done it. Nas have done it, you know, like it or not. Jay did it on 444.
I wanted to speak on 444 because I think that's one of the big examples to me, because like 444 is one of those albums that, I mean, you love it. Ron loves it too. I'm not a big fan of it, but again, it's like, I think I'm more of a fan of, you know, just boisterous, very confident and powerful music, Jay, right? And I can't sit here and say that, you know, Jay wasn't on point and, you know, the things that he was talking about wasn't relevant. To me, it just didn't connect like, let's just say a You Don't Know or a Kingdom Come. The song Kingdom Come did. And maybe that's not possible in hip hop. Maybe I just have to change my palette when I know I'm listening to, I guess, grown-up topics, if you will, from our hip-hop artists. I don't know. It's hard to explain because to me, it was something that 444 was missing. And maybe to me, it's the production and the producer that I wasn't a fan of more so than Jay's approach. Because even though Common wasn't in his 40s or 50s or whatever when he made B, I still think B is one of those albums that a 40, 50-year-old rapper could have made, right? And maybe that, even though it wasn't made by a 40, 50-year-old rapper, maybe an album like that is kind of the blueprint for what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? Because I think a song like The Food could be, I mean, that's some grown-up shit, but it still has that energy, right? The Corners, I don't know. Maybe that, you think The Corners is grown up?
I mean, if I'm introducing that to like somebody that's in an older generation, I could have them listen to that whole album and don't have to worry about like
it's incredible
trying to explain how this is how it is. No, you can just digest it for what it is.
Faithful is very grown up. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, now, again, I can't expect Snoop Dogg to make a Faithful, but yeah, I mean, to me, B is kind of that album that mixes that energy, that hip hop energy, but still handles it in a grown up way. It's Your World, stuff like that.
You know, there's other artists that do well at it without, you know, I guess they don't really get the common mentions as much as they should. But I feel like ones like Jadakiss, he does it well. I even feel like as we start to look at a lot of Fab's later on music, what he was doing with the soul tapes. I think that wasn't too young, and also I feel like it went through with the next level that if they could listen to it and be like, this is cool. You know, there's certain people that could still make that type of music or still adjust to appealing to both demographics. You know, I feel like Juicy J found out how to do it somehow with still appealing to the younger folks, but still making music that his core fan base that grew with him could appreciate as well.
Yeah.
There's certain artists, you know, it's just certain it's certain subject material that doesn't necessarily have to sound mature, but it's mainly the music, the sound of the music, your hooks.
Right.
You know what's more of a young sounding hook or what they're trying to accomplish in that versus like somebody who's older, I would say, for better words. Styles P does a really good job at it. I feel like
Yeah.
you know, even some of those older artists are still making albums that go under the radar, like Lloyd Banks or even Jim Jones. Not the stuff with Mano that has a little bit of a younger sound, but like his album before that, by itself, that was good. It was digestible. So it's certain artists that know how to do it. I just feel like it's not your artists that get talked about enough, you know, because there's a lot of artists that's older that are making good bodies of work and it don't get talked about enough.
I think and I think what happens now, and now that you mentioned Lloyd Banks and he just dropped an album,
Mm-hmm.
I think what happens now is, yes, you have those artists who are very consistent, but I think they're consistent to their base, right? They're making music, people that fuck with them like, and there's another person mentioned by Fonte, you know what I'm saying? And that's what it is. Ain't nothing wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? Because to me, I think that's the true longevity in an artist, to make sure that you service your base. Because for me, a person who I would say I'm more of a casual Lloyd Banks fan, I think that I appreciate the bar work and I can appreciate the consistency, but a lot of those songs on these albums kind of sound the same to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like
And
Killer Mike has been doing it. You know,
Killer Mike has been doing it. And, you know, for many people out there, shout out to Super Duper. I think he's in the building. Thumbs up in the chat, everybody. He says that Killer Mike has the album of the year so far. I could see that. Killer Mike dropped some heat this year. It's something, and this is from somebody who's from Atlanta, Georgia, that loves Killer Mike to death, man. Like, it's something that's missing though. And I hope I'm not sounding nitpicky, man. Like, it's something about Killer Mike on the microphone that what he's doing translates, but he doesn't feel as skilled as, let's say, a T.I. or somebody like that in his prime, you know. But he's rapping at a high level.
I feel like Killer Mike just sticks to what he knows. You know, he sticks to what his thing is, and I feel like it is going over well for him. It's running for him. I guess because I didn't really grow up listening to Killer Mike solo, you know, as much as the features, I don't know what is missing from that. So I take his albums from what they are and face value and just enjoy them for that. But I can't really compare it to what his previous stuff was, you know. Because I listen
like,
to Those
I
are
think he's making his best work now, to be honest. I mean, saying all that to say, I do think that from a solo standpoint, I think Killer Mike's making his best material right now as we speak. Because his earlier works are, you know, are dope, but I think they were kind of more signs of the times. I think he's able to kind of dictate his own ship and kind of write his own ship at this moment. I think Michael, that solo album was a real turning point for him. I think that the rap album that he put out, what was that, 2010 now? Something like that. Long time ago now. The one that LP produced. I think that was a turning point for him as an artist. But yeah, Michael and the most recent effort, like, I think these are some of his best pieces of work. But I don't know. It just feels like if I had to, and I hate to do this, but I mean, you end up doing this, people from the same city. It's like, you know, you compare that to what T.I. was making, what he was making. I just think that But see, I think T.I. is a superior rapper than just about any solo artist that came from the city. When y'all tell me that y'all think Ludacris is better than T.I., I don't understand it. So maybe I'm holding T.I. super high in comparison to Killer Mike in that sense. But Killer's cool. I mean, Killer has the message. He kills the mic, but I don't know. It's just something. I don't know. I don't know if it's the flow or what. I don't know.
I mean, what's really missing to why a lot of this stuff doesn't catch a lot of people is, I guess, like what we mentioned, plenty of shows with many artists is just hits. And I guess because you don't get the hits out of some of these albums and they have the critical acclaim, I guess that's why it doesn't go over for a younger fan base or for somebody to put it where it's supposed to be ranked. And I don't expect that out of them, you know, because I look at some of these artists and not being hit chasers. You know, that's not what they were ever about. If they score one, cool, but I just feel like the content is more what they dig into, having something to say, the content. And so I guess I just look at certain artists for certain things, and I don't expect Killer Mike to give me a club banger. You know, I don't expect, you know, there's certain things I don't expect out of them. And I feel like there's more of an artistic approach that they put into their albums and what they're going to say and make sure it's meaningful and they go over with their fans more so than a hit being chased or whatnot.
And yeah, rap music was 2012. And you're right. And I think that we are just in a different era, right? Where, you know, we're in an era of either you're making singles or you're making full projects. And I think Killer Mike chooses to make full projects. And he clearly has a lot going on. The fact that he's even making, you know, rap albums at the level that he's making them, you know, says a lot about him and his dedication. You could tell that he spent a whole lot of time on that Michael album for sure. What I was gonna say too, though, is to this new Snoop album, and with the fact that times have changed as far as like what people look for in albums. I think in the streaming era, we were watching movies, right? And I was watching The Patriot the other day. And I just felt like, and not to sound like, you know, on some get off my lawn type stuff, but you could just tell a difference between new films and films from, you know, yesteryear. Like the cinematography is better, the actors are better, the script is better, the writing's better, the overall story is better, and it just feels like there was more time put into the film. And I do think the fact that we are in not just a streaming era in music, but we're in a streaming era in, you know, film and television as well. And it seems like either the budgets are cut or the time is cut, and probably a bit of both, where kind of it feels a little thrown together. And when it comes to music, us as listeners, I think we are probably the biggest culprits in this. We listen to our music. Many people listen to their music with the mindset of, I'm putting together a playlist. You want, you know, variety, right? People aren't sitting there saying, I'm going to listen to, well, a lot of people aren't sitting there saying, I'm going to listen to an album from beginning to end. And I'm going to keep listening to this album from beginning to end. I think a lot of people want to veer off to, okay, well, I can't wait to listen to the next thing, or listen to this song over here, or this song over here. And with that being said, I don't think that the artists feel the importance of putting together a great album from beginning to end like that anymore. Whereas in a certain era, you know, prided yourself on that because you wanted people to continuously play your album over and over until that shit pop and then go get another one. You know what I mean?
You know, you want to know what the other big thing is too. Consumers listen to music to critique it.
Exactly. And I feel like, you know,
you're not sitting with
like I listened to that Gorgeous song. I was like, I want to just enjoy this song, and I'm not going to go out here and be overcritical of it because it's a dope song.
Yeah, they're listening to music to run to the internet, get their status off or whatever, and see what it's going to do a review video. Get, you know, they're not sitting with the music. You feel me? Yeah. And I think that's what that commentary that circles around that also makes artists feel like they don't want to do music for these same people that shits on them every time they put out stuff. and all of us could be, suspects of this, of feeling like our opinion matters, and voicing that. But honestly, these people see that, and some people go further into directly messaging them and saying certain stuff. And I mean, in this industry, you got to have tough skin anyway. But I feel like with certain artists that constantly are not getting the good praise or the receival from that, it kind of kills the confidence of even doing it and makes them not even want to give it to us because they feel we're not deserving.
Well, I mean, what you said a great point, not to cut you off, but like confidence, right? Like even when we're talking about basketball or whatever, a great athlete, great shooter, great basketball player, they need to play with confidence. They need to shoot with confidence. Like you need that. And music and the creation of music is not just a vibe, but it's a momentum. And if you feel like that momentum is shot, it's going to affect how you're putting together music. And I think that as fans, we haven't really created a positive momentum for many of our artists, to be perfectly honest with you.
Well, I say that, and I say this as well. No artist is above criticism if it's constructive. Like I feel like the consumer has a right to say if this is dope or if it's whack. It just certain people, it's trolling. You know what I'm saying? The trolling or people that has no idea that they're approaching listening to this or not even having the idea of wanting to like it. It's just like some people will listen to shit just to hate, bro, just the shit on it. And I could see people that could claim they hate this artist or certain artists over and over again, but you have so many opinions about that latest work. How do you hate somebody and listen to them so much? I know if I don't hate artists like that, I'm going to listen to their stuff. So like, it's that type of stuff that goes on. It's like a new praise for being a hater. Like it's congratulated as well now. It's like being a hater is actually something that people are proud to be now as well. Like you take it,
Well, I mean, being a hater at this point gets you attention, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people thrive on attention. Like when you see it all the time, like when people are in these posts and they say something just crazy, they know they're going to get that either likes or thumbs down or at least engagement, right? To go in there and somebody say something crazy back to them. And so, yeah, I think that being a hater in this era gets you attention at the very least. And I think that's what most people want. Some people are just going to say some wild shit about somebody that they know they're going to get attention off of and, let it rock.
Yeah, man. Cause like these artists, it used to be like radio, consumer, and stuff. Now you have podcasts. Now you have these what do they call them? These influencers. You have all kind of stuff now that kind of has the narrative that the culture follows now. And that's why some of these artists feel it's important to go on platforms such as like Kai Cenat and those younger demographics or whatever, because just think about how much it hurts if somebody like Academics or Kai Cenat, they go on a stream and they're saying one of these young artists' songs are whack or their album is whack.
Yeah,
that affects that younger generation of even wanting to go listen to it or not. Like the internet game, this stuff is different, man. But I do feel no artist is above critique. But there's some stuff that's just ridiculous and it's just hate, man. There's a fine line with that, man. Like,
I think that a lot of the times, though, our praise needs to be as loud as the critiques. Like the stuff that I say about Eminem, people will say I'm a hater and this and that. No, I mean that. Like, I have things to back, what I'm saying. I'm not just saying that for some clout or anything like that. It's what it is. But I do think that, when somebody gets off something dope, it needs to be as loud as the critiques are. Now, I know Louisiana Fest was this weekend.
Yes, sir.
Oh man, it's a whole lot to get to here. The Hot Boys reunited on stage. This is something that people have been anticipating for a very, very long time. BG was locked up for a very long time. Same thing with Turk. And, we hadn't really seen Wayne and Juvenile get together for a minute either. But to see those guys on the stage and see, I don't know if you saw like Manny Fresh's post on Instagram where they were like performing Back That Ass Up in the studio where Juvenile was there rapping with Wayne or whatever. It's really dope, man. And it's a great moment for hip hop. Great moment for New Orleans. It's a moment that could have been on the Super Bowl stage, but that's a whole nother subject. But it happened at Louisiana Fest. What did you think about Wayne's performance out there and Wayne getting the key to the city? Wayne being the first musician inducted into New Orleans. What is it? The New Orleans Music Hall of Fame or something?
Yeah, something that Master P presented him with.
And the
which
man.
is also a good moment, which is also not just a good moment, a great moment. Now,
Oh yeah, that can't be left out either.
I watched this from beginning to end, and I want to get into it without like having to speak the Super Bowl stuff at first, because I want people to just get my honest opinion on what I've seen from beginning to end. So like, production was great. You know, it being on Amazon Prime, I have nothing wrong with that. They had the pre-show stuff with Wayno, Mouse, and Lauren LaRosa. So that was cool. I caught the Rock 49 opening performance. And then it got, it opened with Wayne. And I feel like Wayne did the songs I actually want to hear from him. I know he's been doing this festival for some years, but he performed the songs I want to hear from him. My only problem with like that first half or that first set of his performance, I hated that like some of the songs wasn't rapped in like its original form. Like I couldn't help but like think about the Orlando Brown clip when he was talking about like Jay making the right decision. So it's like in certain songs I like, bro, just rap this how it is because I'm vibing. These are the joints I want to hear. But he has that melodic sing-songy thing on verses that wasn't like that. So it was like, he's killing me. But all in all, the joints was there. Like the production was great, and then I like how they brought every hot boy up there individually. Turk went out there, did his thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, you brought and then the big timers went out there and did their thing. If I have this order right, and then you brought BG, and you brought Juvie, and like and Wayne, and all of them came out there and they did their thing together, and it was like, yeah, man, like that's why I feel where the energy of the show was really there. Because Wayne did joints and he did classic joints from Carter 2, Carter 3, but like I didn't feel like the presence of the crowd yet. I guess it's like from what they shown, but like I felt like when the Hot Boys got on there, it took the show to the next level. I feel like that's where the energy turned up, and even Wayne's set after that had more energy than what it was when he did his first set solo. So man, it was dope, but I still am not jumping out the window on the fact that Wayne should have been on that stage and that should have been a moment for the Super Bowl. Like I said, culturally, that being right there in New Orleans, that's cool. For that setting, cool. But I still don't feel like Wayne as a performer is like where you would want it to be for the Super Bowl. And that's not to take away from the event. I think the event was dope. I think the reunion was dope. But I don't know if I'll see Wayne perform like that at the Super Bowl, like what I seen.
I think Wayne will do whatever the venue calls for. Obviously, he has the ability. That's one thing, right? Like you have your approach and then you have your ability. If you know that you're going to go out there and perform for a television crowd, I think he could do that. Now, speaking to your point about the Hot Boys stuff and that Cash Money stuff, that era, and when I say the Cash Money era, I'm talking 98 to let's just say 01, 02. Like those records are special. And Wayne has a great catalog without the early Cash Money stuff, or I guess early part in his career, Cash Money stuff. But like you said, when those guys come out there together and perform those records stand the test of time. Those records stand up. Those records are special. You know what I mean? And I think that anytime that those records are on stage and on full display, it's going to cut through. And it also is nostalgic for most of us because that Cash Money, just breakthrough, like that takes you back to a moment in time in ways that, some of the other Wayne stuff might not, because, it was kind of I don't want to say an offshoot of what was going on in the game, but let's just look at the Carter 3 and Carter 2 as well. It's like it kind of is a reflection of what was going on in the game. You had songs like, Lollipop. You had songs like A Millie. You had songs like Mrs. Officer. They're kind of across the board. That Cash Money stuff sounds like Cash Money, and nothing else sounds like it. You know what I mean? So it's a double-edged sword when you come in with a movement like that. You have your own identity and you don't sound like anybody else, and you're able to cut through because what you're doing is so unique. But at the same time, if you don't change in a certain amount of time, people get tired of it and say you're one-dimensional. But when people go back and revisit it, it's like, oh, that was my shit, man. That stuff was great. And I think that's what that Cash Money movement was. And it was great to see those guys on stage performing those classic records, because those are some classics.
I feel like that kind of saved it for me, as far as watching it, because I'm like, man, if I don't expect Wayne to sound like when he originally recorded the records, but live, the way you're reciting these joints is like different. The cadence, the melodic, you singing shit that's rapping, bro. Like, just rap these joints. Like, I remember you performed one of my favorite joints off the Carter 2, Money on My Mind. And it's like, I remember those bars. Stepping out the motherfucking call day and all. I'm looking like a star, bitch, when you see me make a wish. Like, he's not spitting it like that. It's like, stepping out the motherfucking call day and all. Like, no, bro, like, spit this how it's supposed to be, bro. It was driving me crazy.
It does that, man. I remember I saw Mos Def live one time. Yeah, I seen Bay. Ron was actually with me. It was at the Tabernacle in Atlanta. And I love Mos Def, man, but it was like he was not performing these songs the way that I remembered those records, and it does kill the vibe. I feel what you're saying.
Yeah.
And it's like, the ad-libbing and all that's cool, but it's like, perform the record. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but like for the pros of that, to offset that, I feel like when Wayne got back to being on stage with his brothers, I felt like that brought an extra energy out of him. Even when he was going back and performing his old joints with them, I feel like the energy from that point on, he went in his bag. And then this also with this festival, with him doing the set the way it is, this shows you how deep Wayne's bag is. Because he did a set when he was just performing his hits. He went to Carter 2, Carter 3, and then he brought the Hot Boys. They did their joints, and then he went back to his bag on performing features. He performed mixtape joints, and like he ended it with doing Mr. Carter, I believe. And that's a whole nother subject too we can get into from this. He got on stage and he basically spoke to the Super Bowl, and he made the statement that he feels like it was ripped away from him. And I don't know if that was like a tone or something that was said in a sense of entitlement, or a sense of there was something in the background that happened where he felt it was taken away from him to make him say that. Or maybe I'm overlooking the statement itself. But he did make those words that he said it was taken away from him,
Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says hip hop culture has taken all of the fun out of the Super Bowl moment. Hove ain't booking rappers no more, and I wouldn't blame him. Now, Sabrina Carpenter is next. People are saying pure entitlement. I mean, listen, man, I think that Wayne has more than earned this. I mean, like you said, you look at his catalog, you look at his body of work, you look at his impact, you look at what he means to that city, you look at what he means to hip hop. And I said this before, I don't think there would be a problem or even a conversation about this if it wasn't another rapper that got chose for this. You know what I'm saying? And many people could sit there and say, listen, Jay-Z chose Kendrick Lamar even over himself, which is a fair point. But I doubt that if the Super Bowl was in Brooklyn or in the Meadowlands that Jay-Z would have chosen Kendrick Lamar over himself or any other New York legend in hip-hop. And I think that that's where it feels like a slight and a slap in the face. And like you said, for Wayne to say something like that, you feel like it has to be some sort of context behind the scenes. And the fact that Wayne is so involved with sports currently, he really cares about that, you know. And I don't know if any promises were made, because Wayne's not the kind of person to really just jump out the window and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, he's not one of those guys that just constantly goes out there and complains about the politics of the industry and things like that. So I don't know if either a promise was made or he had his eye on this and he knew who was actually choosing. I mean, as we all know,
I thought it was a no-brainer.
And maybe, you know, you don't think that he maybe inquired about this at some point, or he just assumed?
I think what I want people to separate on this is, if we look at Wayne's resume and his impact and what he did for hip hop, he deserves it. But Wayne as the performer today, do we want to see that on the Super Bowl stage? That's another conversation.
How great of a performer do you think Rihanna is?
Rihanna was pregnant. You know what I'm saying? But Rihanna has the impact. Rihanna was pregnant, bro. Like, I can't judge. Like, what do you expect a pregnant woman to do on stage? You know, like
stand down and no, let me shut up.
I'm just saying, bro. It's like, come on, man. Like, I can't use that for the point.
Right, you think Wayne's a bad performer right now?
No, I don't think Wayne is on par for what I would want to see at the Super Bowl. Like, I'm just gonna be honest with you. The festival was great as far as the confines of where that took place and what it was. But seeing that on the Super Bowl stage, man, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if it will go over the same.
I disagree with that, and I think that I don't know. This is big. I'll put it this way. Once again, I don't know how well Kendrick Lamar stuff's gonna go over. He don't really have the hits like that. I will say Kendrick is an excellent performer, but you think that our parents are gonna be looking at that Kendrick Lamar performance like it's some greatness? Like, they're gonna be like, man, what is he saying?
I mean, like, when I look at Wayne, I know he has a track record. I know he has a great standing to be mentioned, to be as great as people want to put him on the list on. Hell, I have him on the list. But like I said, I don't doubt the ability of what Kendrick Lamar would do when he has the production that he wants for how he does halftime show, whatever. I've seen what he could do performance-wise. I've seen Wayne in his prime live and went to that concert. And I see Wayne now. And Wayne was never known to be just a great performer. He has this aura and he had this thing to him where the fans loved him. He was a rock star. So it makes sense when I'm seeing him in his prime, he's out there and he's playing the guitar, the leather so soft, and he has that moment or whatever. But I'm seeing him now, and you can even hear what he's saying over the mic, bro. His stuff is slurring. The performance piece is not there. It's just like he go up there with his blunt and he fire that joint up and he just be whatever. Like, it just don't seem like something you would want to put on your screen on a Super Bowl, bro. And it's just like, it doesn't seem like he's a polished performer. And you would think with the catalog that Wayne has, he would be a monster on stage. You would think he will command that stage. I haven't seen that from Wayne with his resume and that catalog that he has. It doesn't translate over as the same as the greatness of his music.
Now, why can't he go out there and be a rock star? You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like, I agree, he's not a quote unquote polished performer, but he is a seasoned, experienced performer. His performances aren't about being polished, whereas Kendrick's gonna go out there. You might have some whole theatrics where he's in a jumpsuit, chained up to a chain gang, or he might, disappear or something and reappear at another side of the stage. That's cool and all, but I mean, there's no room for raw performances on some rock star shit on a Super Bowl stage? I mean, I guess, man, maybe this is more about the theatrics of it all. And when it comes to theatrics, Kendrick definitely has theatrics in the bag.
I mean, because even with the pop-up show, I've seen what Kendrick would do in a performance. People like to just, and it was such a great show. I hate that people just want to just pick out Not Like Us
Well, he
And
performed it 8 times, Siobhan.
yeah, but that was,
He performed it 8
that was
times.
at the end, bro. He performed a slew of other songs before that.
He did his thing. I love the fact that he did Element. You know what I'm saying? We were listening to it live, man. Me, Super Duper, you know what I'm saying? Some other people in the chat. I mean, it was a dope show. But I think it's a dope show for us who know his catalog like that. That's my thing with his catalog in the Super Bowl stage. I don't know if his songs are big enough for that stage. And he's a very strange artist in that sense where he's a big artist, but he's bigger than his songs. That doesn't happen a lot. Usually, when you have a big artist, you have songs to really point to that made this artist this big.
I feel like he has shown that he's able to hold the stage down before it even got to Not Like Us.
For sure.
Pop-Up was just a great example of that. And I don't think that if he's putting his money into the production, because artists do have to pay for this stuff for the Super Bowl, and he's able to structure it the way he wants, I don't see this being nothing wrong at all. For that time period that he's doing a halftime show, I feel he's going to hold it down. It's going to be great. And I don't think it will be a decision where they feel like they regret putting him on that slot versus Wayne, you know.
I think, you know, again, it's about New Orleans, man. Like I said, in a blanket reality, I get you. Like if this Super Bowl was in Phoenix, Arizona, or you know, in Miami, or you know, Chicago or something, I get that. But in New Orleans, Kendrick being the choice over Wayne, it just seems like a slap in the face. And do you think that Kendrick would have this halftime show if Not Like Us wouldn't have dropped?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
And the reason why I say, I think that, you know, the Super Bowl stuff is stuff that they consider like beyond the time of when that record dropped. I think that kind of like put the icing on the cake, but I think he was probably already in consideration. They playing Super Bowls kind of early as hell. So I think he was probably already in the mentions of it, and you know, it was just solidified later on. But I think that's something that they had kind of decided before that record even was a thing.
Now I know we didn't talk about this this interview that SZA did with I'm struggling to be objective. I'm not, man. Like, I'm not struggling to be objective, man. I like Kendrick. I'm a big fan of Kendrick. I'm trying to be objective here. Like, I think that he's a great performer. He's a better performer than Wayne is. The reality of it is, I'm not sure how big these records are. And as far as like what you said, in the budget for him going on stage and performing and executing properly and at a high level, Kendrick's going to go out there and knock this show out 10 out of 10. But my only trepidation is, was it the right choice for New Orleans knowing that Wayne is out there? That's my only thing. Like I said, if we're talking about in some random market or some neutral grounds, sure, pick Kendrick. But did you read his Bizarre interview?
Yeah, I think it was dope. I wish they have a visual that they release with it. I like that it was like SZA interviewing him.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that brought some realness to the interview because it's somebody he knows that's asking him stuff. I know he was getting some criticism on doing an interview with a platform that's not hip hop. You know, because who doesn't want to interview K-Dot after everything that happened? So, you know, some of those hip hop platforms may feel entitled to an interview with him or criticize people like him and other rappers. Even J. Cole has gotten a criticism, or you know, or Drake has got some criticism for not sitting down with these hip hop platforms. And honestly, at this point, I don't feel no way about it. I actually could strongly understand how some of these artists don't sit down with any of these platforms, these hip hop platforms, because you don't pick a side to lay on. You kind of go with what the general consensus is saying. You critique these artists in a matter that's above constructive, and then you expect them to come sit on your platform. I don't think that's how it goes. These platforms chooses by sides to go along with the trends in the peanut gallery to get whoever side who they feel is bigger in for an interview. So I can understand why they don't sit down and talk to them.
All right. I get you,
Yeah.
and you're right. I do think that hip hop journalism has turned into more of a gossip thing, and it's not
I've
about the
seen
music.
you literally pick sides when this
Yeah,
happens.
that
You
too.
know?
And I think that when this twofold, right? I think that there is a notion out there, and I think Super Duper talks about this. Jay Short does too. I know he's not in the building right now, but there's a notion out there for certain hip hop artists where it feels like if you're on a platform that's non-hip hop, you made it, right? Um, and somehow you have gotten past being a hip hop artist, but you're still a hip hop artist, and you're too big for these other platforms. There's that notion, and to your point, and I think this is really legitimate. An artist sometimes wants to just get an interview from a platform that doesn't have a dog in the race at all, and who's not going to go out there and exploit gossip. And unfortunately, many of the hip hop platforms have turned into gossip channels, you know. And if you go to a fashion magazine who allows you to sit down with somebody that you're already comfortable with and who is an artist as well, yeah, that sounds like an interview to do. And it's something different, and it's a way to expand your palette, not only as an artist, but as a musician in general.
Yeah, I feel like it's people trying to make it a big deal that he did the interview. It's kind of goofy, man. I don't see an objective hip hop platform that he'll sit down on after all of this. When you see everybody that pick sides, the only person I could see him going sit down and do a cool interview with is like Sway or Big Boy, or things of that nature. That's not trying to get a "I got you" moment or a viral moment, because why would he go sit down with Gilly? After everything Gilly was saying during the beef, why would he go sit down on Joe Button? Even though we kind of seen the side Button was on, but we know I've never seen an interview with that platform. Now I was like, it was a must watch, or I can understand why artists want to go to this platform. No, and that's no shade to them. It's just like there's certain people that pick certain sides and things, or give some certain commentary about the landscape of hip hop that will make an artist not want to go sit down with them. And
Well, I think the thing is now you just don't have to, and I think that there isn't too much quote unquote gatekeeping for certain artists who have made it to a certain status. Now you just go wherever you're comfortable, and that is your right. You know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't have to be put in a hostile situation if you don't want to. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think that's what Kendrick is in his career. Like you said, why would you sit down with Gilly? Now, granted, it would be a viral moment, but who does that benefit more, Gilly or Kendrick at this point? You know what I'm saying? But I do think that it was an overall good interview, and I think that's also a point too, where you don't want to sit down and do an interview for 2.5 hours and you dropping a whole bunch of game and dropping a whole bunch of jewels, but the only thing that gets pulled out of it is, like you said, that gotcha moment, that viral moment. I do kind of want to go through the interview a little bit. What were some things that stood out for you before I go through some of these things?
One of the biggest things from it was when he talked about when SZA asked him what did he mean by not like us, and it kind of reconfirmed what I've said in the previous show, what he's talking about. But I like that she asked him the question.
Sounds like I feel like I'm the only person that's asked what that actually means and clarification, because he leaves a lot of things open-ended. I'm also one of the people that said that Kendrick doesn't do interviews either. So when I saw that he did this interview and then that question was asked specifically, I thought that was interesting. I'm just going to say that. I'm going to get to that part of the interview.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how anybody could have an interview with Kendrick and there's anything that's relative to music and they don't ask him anything that's along the lines of that beef. It's kind of like, what do you expect?
Like, what does us mean? You know what I mean? Because for a lot of people, it means different things. And I want to get to his answer, but the reason why I always want a clarification on that is because, it's us Black people, it's us LA, it's us America, because Drake's Canadian, you know what I'm saying? And even us, when you look at it in those terms, US, and we can't escape fact that we got a whole election year coming up. People are using that record for, for themselves and their own momentum as well. And during the Olympics, we heard the record being used by the U.S. It's like us. So who is us to you? And who is they?
I mean, for me, people could flip it subjectively how they want to apply it to. From what he said in his answer, it kind of gave me an idea of what he was talking about. If you listen to the previous records he had, like the Meet the Grams or Euphoria, is basically, to me, how I took it when he said "not like us" is you're not the same man as some of the same morals, principles, and values, and how you move as a man and how you go about things that's different as in that sense. So that's how I always interpret it. And if you listen to his previous joints along with the things he detailed in that, it kind of brings it all full circle.
I'm looking for it here in the interview itself. It was a pretty long interview. It was a pretty good interview. And you're right. I wish that we could get some sort of, visual for it, but I do think that it's great to have print journalism interviews in a style that we used to get and, allow people to read interviews. Can I ask you, this is okay. This is what SZA asked in one of the questions. He said, can I ask you a hyper masculine question? You can also tell me to shut the F up. What does not like us mean to you? Here it is. Says Kendrick Lamar laughed. He says, not like us. Not like us is the energy of who I am, the type of man I represent. Now, if you identify with the man that I represent, she says, break down the man for me. She says, this man has morals. He has values. He believes in something. He stands on something. He's not pandering. He's a man who can recognize his mistakes and not be afraid to share the mistakes and can dig deep down into fear, bias, ideologies, or experiences to be able to express them without feeling like he's less of a man. Now, I think that's interesting. Hold on. And if I'm thinking of not like us, I'm thinking of me and whoever identifies with that. Okay, that's interesting because, clearly he's talking about Drake, right? But when we talk about being transparent and being emotional or whatever, that's one of the things that Drake made a hallmark in his whole career on. And people knocked Drake for that when he used to do that, remember? And now it seems
I don't think it's the same in the sense of what Kendrick's talking about.
Okay. Well, how do you perceive?
I think being vulnerable and and you got a good point there. But I think what is vulnerable in the sense of what Kendrick is talking about is a good example of his last album versus Drake being vulnerable is always relative to him and whatever latest girl he stopped messing with. There's the difference in that in my eyes of it. That's what it's always been associated with. More so than Kendrick being vulnerable and talking about things that happened throughout his time as an adolescent up till now. But when you get further into the conversation, it gets a little bit deeper on the sense of when she speaks about mental illness and she asked him about that. That was one of the things in there, and she mentioned something that Cat Williams said to her, and he said that she has a mental illness, and she said like she took it as an insult, but he was like, no, it's a compliment. And so she goes on to explain how that was, and he spoke to that as well. And I think that kind of goes hands in hand with what he's speaking about in the sense of that as well.
Well, I'm gonna find that part of the interview also. But yeah, I mean, so I guess for a lot of people, not like us was more of a, on the surface, it felt like it was more of a, let's just say, identity as far as like, either race or background, ethnicity, and things like that. At least that's how I took it. And it seems like it's more of a moral piece. At least that's what, it means to Kendrick. And, I guess that's a great way of him saying in a bunch of words, you got somebody who moves like this from a morality standpoint. And we know all the topics that he's covering on Not Like Us. And you got somebody who doesn't move like this, and that's who I am. And so that's the separation. And I mean, you know what? I will say this. That is a clever way of actually positioning a diss record and speaking on a diss record and making it a bigger topic than just, you know what I'm saying, you over here effing with whatever, and I'm not on that. So I got to give Kendrick credit for that. He made a diss record a bigger conversation.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. You want me to be totally honest with you?
Yeah, go for it.
Deep when listening to Not Like Us. It was just a bop, bro. And he said clever shit and he had some quotables, but I did not dig deep when he was saying Not Like Us and wonder.
See, he finds a way to make everything deep. You know what I'm saying? Because on the surface, like you said, I'm sure he understood that it was a bop, and the things that he was saying were just, you know what I'm saying, he was hitting them with haymakers, but you're not going to get in Bizarre Magazine, you know what I'm saying, on some ignorant shit. So he found a way to make it make it a bigger conversation than, like you said, what it needed to be.
You know, and I don't care if it's a hip hop platform or whoever interviews. I feel like some of these artists, when their work is done and they kind of leave stuff alone a little bit, I do want to hear them go back and recount some of these moments with somebody who's going to be objective and ask them the questions that we want to know. So I do want to see that in the future with a Kendrick or even a Drake or a J. Cole and some of these people that are interviewing, because now some of these artists are no longer like active in hip hop. We've seen them tell the same stories over and over and over again. That is like, man, the people we really want to see give interviews and answer questions about certain things. I want to see what they want to go, talk about now. Hell, I want to hear Jay recount the beef with him and Nas. I want to hear that from him, not from everybody who's around at the moment. I want to hear that. We heard Nas kind of speak on it in his documentary he did. But it's like, I just want to hear certain artists sit down and have and have those interviews, where we can get a recount of certain moments before it's all said and done.
Well, that's what makes these moments so special, right? Like, you have people like Jay-Z and Nas who are alive and well and who lived this, and I'm sure it was so long ago, there are many details of it all that they have forgotten or slipped their mind. But they could probably sit down with me or you or whoever, and I ain't even talking about on camera or whatever, and just tell you a whole story that you've never heard, a perspective that you've never heard. But that's what makes these stories even more special, is the fact that you're not going to get those. You know what I'm saying? And like you said, you're going to get it from all the people that were around it as opposed to the individuals that were there. And, back to my Quincy Jones point, when you have the people who are that important, like Quincy, who was there for so much, those moments that he is willing to talk about stuff is extremely special, because now that he's gone, you're not going to get those moments anymore.
Yeah, that last
you're going to get secondhand.
That last print interview Quincy Jones did, he was airing everybody out. Wow. That was crazy. That was crazy.
Yeah, but, it was. Special moments, though. But I do think that I think that Jay and Nas, they did their time when it comes to interviews. And if they don't want to, sit there and talk about back in the day and all that, I get that. You know what I'm saying? But if you got guys who are in their primes, and I think Future kind of goes along with this as well. Like, we would like to hear from you now, but look, at some point though, Siobhan, like, when a lot of this stuff dies down, they're going to be wanting to be interviewed at some point. I think right now, the person who needs an interview, and a great interview the most, really is J. Cole. J. Cole's losing a lot of momentum. And whether people want to acknowledge that or not, J. Cole came into 2024 with more momentum than anybody. And after that little mixtape, and after this, Kendrick thing and what he did at Dreamville Fest, there's some momentum loss. And I think that J. Cole's one of those guys that he's like Obama, man. If he sits there and talks to you, all is forgiven. And I think that he can regain a lot of that momentum back. if he sits down and talks to somebody and actually talks about these things and be transparent, because people want J. Cole to win. He's not like Drake, where, you know what I'm saying, people want to see Drake fall off. People want to see Drake, you know what I'm saying, hit the bottom. But when it comes to J. Cole, people want to see J. Cole win.
I just don't see how an interview helps J. Cole in this sense. And the only reason why I say that is because what are we going to get from Cole that he hasn't already said?
Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says, Mike, to your point, with music platforms, Joe Budden used to be about 80% music, 20% pop culture / gossip. It's the other way around. Very few A2HHs left. Yeah, you know, I mean, because again, it's very hard to stick on the music, you know, because people are trying to chase numbers. People got to pay bills. People got to get their, you know what I'm saying, their revenue up. And the gossip gets you revenue, unfortunately. To your point, though, Siobhan, to answer your question, what could J. Cole do in an interview that he hasn't done through song? I think that what he did on that, what is it, Port Valentino or whatever that shit's called. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be funny. I really forgot the name of the song. I think that could have been more of an interview than a song. I think that him speaking about the relationship that he has with these two guys, and how he felt, you know, put in the middle or whatever, I think that could have been done in an interview. I think that an interview with Sway, he could have actually had people empathize where he was in that position. And the big question here, Siobhan, what made him do what he did at Dreamville? And how did he think that was going to go over with his friend Drake?
That's what I think won't go over well with the people. I don't think people want to hear about the reason why you cop pleas over again. I think this is something that you want people to forget and
they're not
for the benefit of them. You know, I don't think you want to keep on opening that wound and for people to criticize you for this shit, because they're going to keep on ripping you apart. It's never going to get better when it comes to this. So
is it the worst mistake ever made in a hip hop beef?
No, the worst mistake was Drake underestimating Cole. I mean, underestimating Kendrick. That was the worst mistake.
No, I think this one's worse. I really do. But I feel you. I do think that underestimating, I understand where Drake was coming from, because Kendrick doesn't make a lot of music, and he makes a lot of music. He didn't think he was going to come with 4 records in 4 days. But I get you.
Yeah, but, you know, for Cole, I don't want to hear the comments. Me, even as a consumer, taking my according to hip hop hat off, as a consumer of this shit, I don't think I want to hear Cole talk about it again. Stay away from it. I don't want to hear.
How does he move on? Because at the end of the day, musically, I mean, fans don't really want to hear much from him moving forward, you know, like, so how do you move on from this? And because, I mean, I hear people saying move on, but how do you actually move on, and how is he going to be able to move on? Because Drake and Kendrick can move on. They did what they did. They, you know what I'm saying, battled it out, and, you know, they can move on. They both have, actually.
Just continue to make music and act like it never happened. That's what moves. That's what you have to do these days. Act like shit never happened. Because the internet quickly forgets stuff so fast, man.
People say you got to make a good album and move on. But again, the whole tone of everything that he built up has changed. Like, his whole momentum was built on, yeah, I'm beasting this shit. I'm the king of this shit right now. And you can't talk like that anymore.
Think about it, man. The reason why you have to act like stuff doesn't exist is for the same reason how rappers get caught up in scandals and stuff like that, and they just put out some music and people just forget it ever happened. You know, it's just like if we could overlook what some people did and still appreciate their good work, I'm pretty sure people will overlook this Cole stuff and listen to what he needs to. Because it's not like he was a tough guy rapping artist anyway. You know,
we can all make the kind of music to the level where we're just gonna forget something like this, because it's like we know Kendrick has the ability to make a Damn or Good Kid, Mad City or something like that that could kind of shift things. We know that Drake could go out there and make some hit records and make people forget what was going on. But does J. Cole really have that ability to make people forget something like this?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, did you hear Freddie's new album?
Speaking of Freddie, man, just
Freddie shitted on him real quick on the album too.
Just a few years ago, they was calling that man Freddie Gibbs.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Now we're reviewing how dope of a project this is. That's how you make people forget. Just keep on moving on, acting like stuff don't exist, don't acknowledge it, and make dope music. I like this project.
I like it too, man. Freddie's versatility always continues to amaze me, man. Like on Soul Sold Separately, he was all over the place with his sonics and what he was choosing production-wise and his flow. I think with this one, he had more of a steady, selection of production. You could see like the direction of where this was going, but his flow, man, he was killing it, man.
Oh man, the flow's crazy. So I do have favorite tracks off this album.
Yeah, go for it.
It's about a good solid 4. The whole album, I like the album from beginning to end, but these 4 stood out to me. Rabbit Island, I dig Rabbit Island. I like It's Your Anniversary. I like the Tony sample, and that's one thing. And I'm just putting myself in the hypocritical bag right now because I said I get tired of rappers wasting good samples and just need to be creative. I like how he like flows over that stuff.
Me too.
It just because the album is already like a good vibe on that. I like how that went. I like the record Still Doors, and I like Ruthless, which is another one in which he's flowing over the classic 112 Cupid joint. So just the vibe of the album, man, it's like it's one of those joints you could ride to, you could kick it and light a spliff up and just enjoy it. Like it's whatever you want from it, man. It's like I like it. And most importantly, I didn't have expectations of it, so I just enjoyed it for what it was. Kick back and let that joint roll. And when it was over, I was like, "Damn, it's done. Right. It ain't more." Like, right. So yeah, like it's a good record. I like it. I appreciate it.
Cosmo Freestyle was dope too, man. Like Freddie, man, he's one of those guys in this era specifically. Like, man, he's built up a really, really dope catalog. And I don't even want to say he's understated. I can't even say that, but of all the crop of artists that, get a lot of buzz and a lot of appreciation in this era, I think that he's one of the better album makers. Like when you think about somebody who puts together quality albums, I mean, you got Alfredo in your catalog. You know what I'm saying? Like he has stuff that he's done with Madlib in his catalog. Like Sold Separately is out there too. Like Freddie knows how to make a project. And even when even when he was beefing with, Benny and all that stuff, it's like, I really hate that happening that way because some of the things that Freddie does really well, and they've collaborated together, over the years, I think that, he could have, through collaboration, really helped, Benny to hone in on some of those things too, because Freddie knows how to make an album. He knows how to make those things connect. Like he's a dope artist in a sense where he not only can rhyme, but he can make songs and he can make albums. I think Jeezy letting an artist like that slip through the cracks, man, that's one of the bigger fumbles out there. Freddie's really talented.
Yeah, and I think about the thing with Freddie is what takes away from him a little bit is that outside shit.
Yeah, the antics. He's kind of like the game in that sense, man.
Yeah, man. But Freddie's album is very good, dog. Like I really enjoyed that.
I think it's one of the better albums this year, to be honest.
What's your favorite joints on there?
I think, like I said, Cosmo Freestyle. And I'm with you, man. I like Anniversary. I like Rabbit Island a lot. Wolverine was hard too, man. Like,
facts.
Yeah, he was attacking these beats, man. Lord with the super chat says Eastsiders October London Groove Back. Yeah, Groove Back's hard. But yeah, I just think that he just knows what he's doing. When you hear certain artists, they know what they're doing. I just said that about Tyler, the creator, too. You could tell Tyler knows how to make music, but when it comes to this rapping stuff and really like going for it bar for bar, Freddie knows what he's doing. He knows the production to choose. He goes to the themes of the projects. When we talk about being a great beat picker, I think he's kind of underrated in that light too. Now, he might not pick the flashiest beats all the time, but he picks stuff that fits him really well. And I think he translates too, man. He's one of the guys, man, that if we were in the 106 and Park era, I think he would be even bigger than he is, man.
The dope thing about Freddie too is I always like Freddie's features too.
Yeah.
I like one of his favorite features for me, and it's not his hardest one, but it always just flowed so well. It was a record he had on Dom Kennedy's Yellow album. That the verse he had on that, it was like, man, like Freddie, you could put Freddie on anything and he could spit. Like
he can rap over anything, and I think he's proven this here, where he's jumping on the 112, and not anniversary, the 112 Cupid loop. And saying he's jumping on the Tony anniversary. Like, he's proven that, at this point, man, I'm comfortable rhyming over anything. Give me whatever beat, and I'm on it.
And he has perfected his flows.
Yeah.
The way he juggles, bouncing in and out of his flows, like without effort, it doesn't seem forced. It's dope. It just flows, man. It's really dope, man. Like, yeah, I could see the replay value on this one.
He's got a lot of flows too. Yeah. I think because he has like such a raspy type voice, maybe people don't really catch the fact that he's jumping in and out of flows like that. But yeah, the man got a lot of flows. And a lot of versatility. I think this is one of the stronger projects of this year. I want to sit with this one a little bit more before I really rate it as far as the year goes. But it's definitely top 5 in the year for me.
I'm gonna go back and this definitely gets replay value. I'm putting this in my category where I have Weekend at Bernie's from Currency and Cushion Orange Juice and all that. I'm putting that the Yellow album Dom. I'm putting it in there with all that.
Yeah. I mean, there are a few albums this year that really got to go back to, like Samurai with Lupe Fiasco. It's just. There's a lot of really dope stuff that happened this year where it's like there might not be a runaway album of the year per se, but there are a lot of albums that were really good that are in that conversation that need to be revisited and kind of matched up against one another.
Yeah, we definitely have to go back at the end of the year and have to put these albums up on the board and pull rate those. We definitely have, because I feel like for once in a long time, like fourth quarter is where a lot of artists decided to drop, and so far.
I mean, Westside. What did you think about that Westside mixtape?
What's so hard about like me getting into Griselda a lot? It's just like I listened to this project from beginning to end, and I could always appreciate that they spit. I could appreciate that Gunn is spitting, but I was just bored listening to it, bro. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
is it the production? Is it the pace or the tempo?
Yeah, bro. And I hate that it sounds like I'm shitting on it because I know he could spit, but it's just like it's hard to keep my attention because it's just like the boom bap and then him sounding like a young Ray is just like to hear this over and over again, bro. It's like the beats to me just got more and more. The tempo got slower and slower, especially like the joints he's with Conway. And I'm just like, yeah, man. It was kind of boring, bro. I'm not gonna.
I did like Free Shots. Free Shots was hard. You know what I'm saying? I do think that the production is, again, the quality is there, and but you're right. I do think that it's more of the same. We talked about this last episode. I think that when it comes to Westside, and he's kind of prepped us for this as an artist, it's kind of like when you used to hear a Missy album. Yeah, I want to hear Missy and I want to hear what her and Timbaland do, but now I want to hear who you're going to have featured on here. right? And I think for a lot of these beats and this tone that Westside has kind of set with his albums, it's like, okay, you're a dope curator. You're gonna come with these beats. We don't really expect the biggest bars from you. And he said this himself. But now I want to know who's gonna be on this record with you. You know what I'm saying? Like that tone has been set since Supreme Blind Tell, to be honest. And I think that there weren't a whole lot of big features on this one. So I think that some of that production, Westside kind of was left to his own, devices on it. And for a lot of people, that might have, left it a little flat in comparison to some of his other projects, but the beats were there on here. And I mean, Free Shots is crazy.
Yeah, man. I'm going back and I'm looking at this stuff, and it was like, bro, I wanted more from it. And I don't know, man. It started to get boring, and then after it started to get boring to me, it started getting a little annoying to listen to.
Well, for me, I think the thing that I didn't really love, it's like, I say this respectfully, I think drama was kind of forced on there, and I think it was kind of unnecessary. Like, what I'm saying, the random drops and the commentating and it just was unnecessary. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't that kind of project to me. I think that it was one of those where it's like, yo, these songs could have flown into each other without DJ Drama talking about where he vacationed at last and all that shit. Like, it's no disrespect. It was just like, okay, what is this really adding to the process?
But this goes back to me saying I could appreciate Griselda for just having the ability to really spit, but I like their latest efforts. I just can't get into like that, man. I'm just gonna be honest. It's just like they lost me.
The thing is, man, where Griselda was winning at is when the production was there, but the bars and the rapping and the flows and all that shit was crazy. At least for me, that's what kind of won me over on those guys. And the production seems to still be there, but as far as like the vicious rapping and the rapping at the level that that was just crazy, it seems like that's kind of veered off a little bit. Now we hear it time to time, with blow for blow, stuff like that, and obviously when Conway made From a King to a God, which was some years back. But I'm just talking about the standard, the level that we're looking at. When we get that kind of stuff, like, it's hands down. But I think that, bar work is not at the level that we remember it being. But again, Free Shots, still praying, dope records.
Yeah.
And maybe this one might have needed, a little bit more features to be as flashy as the other ones. But I think that the production on this album really shone.
I mean, and I know this is gonna probably sound crazy with me saying this, or with me liking Kendrick so much, but hearing Westside Gunn's voice for a long period of time is just like, it gets annoying. on
for some people, his voice is not.
To be honest.
Yeah, for some people, what I'm saying, his voice is not it for them, and that's why I think that we've gotten accustomed to, there being features, here and there. And that's why when you look at albums like Pray for Paris, which I think is a classic, I think it's one of the best hip-hop albums of the past 5 years, he was able to put those features in great places where it didn't feel like it was overwhelmed with features, but they were there enough to really support everything that he was there to do. And then the records where it was just him, they were shorter. You know what I'm saying? The production was stellar on the whole album. It's just a perfect, piece of work for him. And I think it's kind of a blueprint for how he needs to kind of construct albums. But those features were there, but they weren't overwhelming features, having Joey on there, having Wale on there, obviously having Conway and Benny on there. Like, I mean, it was perfect.
Yeah, and another thing, like, I like these niggas, like I really do, but it's like I just can't get into their latest efforts, man. I kind of feel like I don't feel like what is the next step they'll take it to. I don't think you can go, I don't see them taking it to the next level more than what they already done with it. So all this stuff is starting to sound a little redundant.
What does the next level look like? I think that's the biggest question, and how do you get to that point? I guess I don't have the answers.
They probably won't. They just gonna have that core fan base, that's just gonna support whatever they put out and let that be that. Which is there's nothing wrong with that. It just, for me, man, it don't do it for me, man. This Griselda stuff just hasn't been slapping for me, man.
I do think that subject matter can put you in a box in hip hop, and the fan base that you're making that type of content for won't allow you to grow. And when you try to grow outside of that, you're not really getting new people, and then your core doesn't really support you doing that either. It's a tough place to be in. It's like you can create a level of excitement and shit. It's even happened to great groups like Mobb Deep. You know what I mean? Like, I think when Mobb Deep got stuck in that box of what they do so incredibly well, or what they did so incredibly well, their fan base, myself included at that time, probably wouldn't have allowed them to grow outside of that. When they tried to make a record with 112, which, looking back on it, wasn't a bad record, we wasn't fucking with it like that. You know what I mean? It's not what you want to hear from Mobb Deep. You want to hear Mobb Deep talking that street shit. And, looking back on it, it's not fair to do to the artist, but the best thing that an artist can do is to let their audience know that they're going to change early. And, groups like Outkast did that. Groups like A Tribe Called Quest did that. Kanye West did that. It's like, listen, I'm going to get off these soul samples. You might not like it now, but you'll appreciate it later. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think there are certain artists that just are going to stay in their thing because that's their thing, and they're never going to try to push the limits outside of that. And that's, and if it works for them and their base, cool. But for me, I'm kind of off it, Now, if it's still, like I said, this only goes as far as dope as your project sounds.
Mm-hmm.
You can stay in the same bubble as long as the music is dope. But I'm not getting that dope stuff from here. I just feel like you're just rapping.
And at this point, when it becomes a job, it feels a little uninspired. I think we all can, sink into that. It's like certain things are organic. When it comes out, it's a certain energy. It's fun, and people feel that energy. But after you continuously do them over and over, and you're trying to capture a certain, lightning in the bottle, if you will, it feels redundant, and it feels like a job, and it feels like you're just, you're just going with the flow. And I think that's kind of where they are now. And I guess they got to figure out how to get out of that, and how to create that new energy. And that might not mean changing up your subject matter, and that might not mean changing up your sound, but you gotta get that feeling back, and that's not an easy thing to do. It's way easier said than done.
But that's why this brings me back to what I've said on the previous episode. What have we got out of New York that has been like undeniable lately?
Yeah. Fresh, you know what I'm saying? And New York are the pace setters. They've always been the pace setters. I think that, and I'm gonna go way back here, 30 years back, when Wu-Tang came out of Staten Island wearing those masks and sounding like they sounded, people like, what the fuck is this? Right. And so it's like, that's what we're talking about, and Griselda did that for a moment. They're not really quote unquote New York City, but we're talking about the whole state. I feel like Griselda may be the last ones in New York to do that. And we're just looking for anybody, not just New York, but just anybody, but especially New York, because New York's the Mecca. Whether people like that or not, New York is the Mecca. For somebody to come out of the city and have people looking like, yo, what the fuck is that? You heard that? You heard this person? Send the links to niggas. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was just always something nice, something fresh. You got the Wu, you got Nas, you got Big, you got Jay, you get, Mobb Deep, you get, everything just always sound nice and fresh that was coming from New York. It's just like everybody had their time and their moment for a time. And it's just like, even when Cam came back and he had the moment with Dipset, and then 50 coming in, the G-Unit stuff. And then I even remember like, the noise for when, Fab was doing this thing for a little bit, and
ASAP Mob, man, like
and the Lots and D Block, and
even when ASAP Mob came through, man, that was some different shit. Like when ASAP Rocky and Ferg and all those came in, like with the ASAP Mob not collaborations, but compilation albums, like those dudes came with some fresh shit.
And like I feel like the last person that kind of was about to push a movement and it was about to start popping for New York again was Pop Smoke. And I didn't see people get that happy for a New York artist since that, for real, because
that's unfortunate.
I can't put Ice Spice in that. That's an internet sensation that just happened to be from New York.
That's a little different, right.
But like the energy around Pop Smoke, to hear what 50 was saying about it, to hear what like how the young people was reacting to him, just that he had a movement that was about to start bubbling for him. And man, it's just like I haven't seen that energy for artists since then out of New York.
The Cozy tape was fire, man. Shout out to ASAP Mob. Look, it could be done. You know what I mean? Like it could definitely be done. Speaking of innovative sounds and innovative artists and people getting back to the fold, man, Young Thug's free, man. What does this mean for hip hop?
This is gonna be tough, and a reason why, man. 15 years on papers, man. And
okay, I'm glad you're going there. I think that's
what man.
Talk about.
Number one, I'm glad he's free. His lawyer is. Man, if he don't wrap in a lot of clients off this, man, but it kind of feels like putting them in a kind of a trap, man. That's a long time, man, to be on probation.
Well, here are the for the people who don't know, here are the stipulations, right? Here's some of Young Thug's restrictions. He's gonna be banned from Metro Atlanta from what, 15? Was that 10 years? 15 years?
And see that's crazy.
That is crazy. And for the people who aren't from the Atlanta area or know what the Atlanta area looks like, the Metro Atlanta area is huge. I mean, he might as well just move out. Like, I don't even know where that stipulation came from. But hey, here we go. Also, he has to do 4 presentations / concerts a year against gang violence. Can travel for work / make music. No contact with gang members or co-defendants except for his brother and Gunna, and cannot promote gangs in any way.
So one thing I want to say is his lawyer took a gamble, a hell of a gamble, and luckily it came up in his favor. Because when they did that plea with the non-negotiated plea, you leave it up to that judge to make the decision on what they want the sentence to be. And you already had turned down that probation sentence, and they just turned around and gave it to you. So I feel like in the eyes of everything, holistically, I guess it was a win. But I always feel like long-term probation with certain stipulations and the element of what you're in is hard. It's hard.
Well,
I mean, you're seeing BG struggle.
Any of these terms, we're talking about 20 years, right? Is that okay?
Yeah, violate 20 years. Yeah, and it's like we're seeing BG struggle with it, and BG only has 2 years of supervisory release, and I think they already done violated him like 2 or 3 times.
Well, let me go over this again. Banned from Metro Atlanta for 10 years, except for family weddings, funerals, graduations, or serious illnesses. Must give an annual anti-gang / gun presentation / concert in Metro Atlanta. So I guess he can do that in Metro Atlanta. Allowed to travel for work. no contact with gang members or co-defendants except for his brother and Gunna, and forbidden from promoting gang-related content in any form. Now, musically, what does that mean? Because we know what Young Thug has brought to the table musically, and that is all over his music. We talk about people changing their content and subject matter and things of that nature. How do you think this is going to change Young Thug musically, and what do you think we're going to see from him musically based on these conditions?
See, I don't know, because like I see how Gunna has was been creative ever since the whole case, but then Gunna didn't really have the content like Thug either. Yeah. And it just makes me wonder, what does that creativity sound like? And boom, the guy that runs to Atlanta when he needs a check and balance, you got people piecing up stuff. You know, he said he wants to get out and he wants people to go back to collabing again. That's how you keep this going. Now, I don't know longevity wise how long he could do that, but Thug can transition out of this without making gang related music, just because he's melodic. He's already has joints where he has with Drake, or he has with Gunna, or he has. I think he could do it. It's not the element of the content of the music I think is going to be hard for him. I think it's the real life element that makes this shit hard.
Yeah.
When you're thinking about, you can't go back to Metro Atlanta. You can't have conversation with YSL members. And then the element of what comes along with people now wanting to test you, because there's always going to be one idiot that's going to try to test you, or try to, people, or even the fake industry shit, like the people who want to create these beefs or whatever and want to push your limits. And they only seem to do that with certain people. Think about it, how, Meek was keep on being tested by what's old boy name? With the colored hair and shit. I don't even know his name. Can't even think of it right now. Don't even deserve a mention though.
I'm sure people in the chat to help out.
Takashi, that's his name. Whatever. But Takashi was keep on talking them like, and these type of dudes, there's always gonna be somebody who's gonna try to test you when you're in that moment. And I just don't know how that's gonna look for him, man. It's 15 years is a long time, bro.
That is a long time.
I mean, I'd rather spend 15 years outside bars than I will inside bars, but it's still like a damn near a trap, depending on how strict those stipulations are and what he can and cannot do, man. It's tough.
Well, it's definitely life-changing. And like you said, I mean, you would rather have that opportunity outside of bars than other than inside, because 15 years inside looks like what it looks like. You're inside, you don't have a chance to do anything. But even if this looks like a situation where you move to another place, and you're creating music from there, but it sounds like, this is the weird part about these stipulations. Sounds like they want him to be involved in Metro Atlanta, but not involved in Metro Atlanta. You know what I mean? Like, you want to do concerts and benefits and things like that benefit the city in that way, which is fine. But it's hard to say that, okay, you're going to, it's hard to say that you're going to do all those things for this area, but we need you to stay out of this area. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they want to benefit from him, but they don't want his influence and what he brings to there or whatever they think that comes with. And it's really,
so it's like, it's hard for him to move away totally, because he has to come back and do some of these things for that community, at least annually.
Yeah, and
it feels like a trap though. It's like, okay, I can't just totally, because if it's like that, let me just move away and move to Montana somewhere. You know what I'm saying?
I think a thing with another thing about this Thug stuff is like, it's probably better for him not to be in Metro Atlanta than it is as a negative. Like, being at everything and the element that comes along with that, it's probably better for you to be outside of it. But on the flip, they did that for a specific reason, bro. And I'm not even talking about him. It's better for him not being out of there, is because I feel like when you're there, you're just a target. I feel like the cops are going to try to find a way to slip you up again. I feel like after that whole situation, you're just a walking target. So it's probably best for him not to be in Atlanta. But It's a trap, man. It's gonna be one he's gonna have to maneuver from, because that one, like that violation going back for 20 years, bro. I mean, that's ugly, bro. Like that's some ugly shit.
So there's a lot of cases out there that are going on in hip hop right now. Like, what do you think this case means as far as like setting the precedence for other cases that are going on in hip hop? Now, I know that Diddy's thing is a whole different situation, but that one's coming. You know what I mean? But
Um,
what does this case basically mean for other cases that are out there, the dirt situations and all of that stuff?
I mean, it keeps on setting the example that no matter how big you are, your ass can go down. I
Yeah.
mean, we could see your favorite rappers all the way up to Diddy go down. Anybody can go down, you know. And I think if anything, they've shown hip hop that over and over again within these last so and so years. So nobody's above, no matter who's your favorite, whatever. If they find something, you gonna go down. I think that's what more importantly have shown. But here's the thing about Thug's case. This is just an example of them being overzealous and so fixed and of going at him that they didn't even have their shit prepared to even go after that. You know, they really jumped the gun and didn't have they relied on snitches, and they try to put stuff together and make that happen. They didn't really have a case for that. And you see it play out where they just look totally goofy. They look like amateurs, you know, and they just got schooled, and it worked out better for Thug in a situation than what the ugly part of it would have been if they would have found him guilty of everything in a trial and what that could have possibly looked like. I mean, this is the stupidest trial I ever seen happen in my life. And for as long as it did, and we basically got nowhere for what they were doing. Yeah, bro, that was ugly. That was ugly.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and it's one of those things, man. It was like this trial happened. Well, it took a year for us to get to this point. Like, where's the real resolution here? And why did this have to take so long? Why did this have to carry on so long? We went through two judges, went through two different not defense attorneys, you know what I'm talking about, or prosecution attorneys, right? We went through two different ones of those, and it went through a recess that took all kind of breaks, went through all of these different plea deals and plea bargains. Like, why do we even have to go through all of this?
I mean, it made them look stupid. Them pursuing them, they look stupid at the end. You know, they try to make this guy the big bad wolf, and you couldn't even put your stuff together. You couldn't even have it together to do it. You wasn't prepared, and it really showed. You know, it really showed, and it's just like you're bad. You know, now his job, yeah, his job is not to get himself in a position where that happens again. And you know, the company you keep too, because that's the biggest thing for a lot of rappers is being around that company that have you and some shit, you know.
Yeah.
So
It kind of reminds me of the Michael Vick shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was a lot of people around him doing a lot of things, but again, he was the big guy and he was able to fund things, and you know, might not have been hands-on as much as some of the others, but he was the one that was going to go down. Speaking of sports though, man, not to jump off topic, because we didn't talk about this last week. Did you see that D Wade statue?
Oh my God.
You're in Florida, so I wanted to talk to you about this. Like, man,
I mean, honestly though, that's just one of many statues I've seen them get kind of wrong. You know, all the statues they've been doing hasn't been great. Like they had the AI statue looking like Bow Wow, like Mike. They had Kobe looking like a created player. You know, it was like their statues haven't been that great at all, man. They got they got Dwayne Wade looking like Buddy Love turning into Sherman Klump. You know, that transition. Like this shit just looked bad, bro. It's like who's doing this stuff, man?
They could have did D-Wade a little bit better than that. You know, I think where they mess up with these statues is they try to catch them in action. Yeah, there we go. We got it on the screen. I think when you try to catch a person in action, like the face is just, it's not going to translate. Yeah. I mean, I don't even know what the face of the Michael Jordan statue out in front of Chicago's arena looks like, because the pose is there. You know what I mean? You got other things to focus on, but see, on that one, it's making you focus on his face, and the face is gonna be off, man.
Man, that stuff it just looks bad, bro. And I was just like, I seen when they revealed, I was like, all right, that's dope. You getting the statue, and then that happened. So it makes me wonder, anybody else who get a statue, like how you gonna make these guys look, man? Because
yeah, man, you look, man. And then he gets up there like, who is this guy? Like, come on,
yeah,
man.
see that Jordan,
The Jordan one.
bro.
Jordan was fine. Oh, can you pull up the Dominique Wilkins one? Because now I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, well, what does the Dominique statue look
Tell
like?
you, man, they had the AI one looking like Riley from the Boondocks, man.
That's something that Philly does, though. Philly gives everybody these miniature statues or whatever, for whatever reason. And that's not a good look. But hey, I mean, that's how Philly does it. They're consistent with it. Because I think Moses Malone has that. Barkley has that. Dr. J has that. I want to see this Dominique Wilkins. I'm about to look it up real quick. Statue. Because I don't remember it looking crazy. I think we're giving people statues. Let's see. The Dominique Wilkins was fine.
That don't look bad.
I have no problem with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it don't look like the damn D Wade one. Yeah, there's no excuse, because people out here like, oh well,
that looked bad, bro. Like the D Wade joint looked bad. Yeah, I seen that joint. That joint looked bad.
They looking like a dancer from Thriller. Come on, Miami, man. D Wade did way more for the city than that. Why
he was like, who was that? Like, look at that guy. Who's that? Yeah, that shit looks bad, bro.
So he got an ashy statue. Yeah.
All I know is they can't get LeBron's wrong when it's all said and done. LeBron's gonna probably have it in two different.
I was gonna say, where his statue gonna be at? Like, it's gonna be in Cleveland, Miami.
It's gonna be in Cleveland. It's gonna be in Cleveland.
Well, yeah, I mean, got to be in Cleveland. I do think that Miami owes him a statue too.
But I'm like, come on, bro. Speaking of like sports stuff, man. Like, did you see the clip of like Drake and the DeMar DeRozan shit? Like him and
yeah.
What you think about that, man?
Well, I think, man, at the end of the day, DeMar DeRozan's in a different situation. I will say, man, when DeMar DeRozan was in Toronto, Drake showed him love and vice versa, whatever. They seem to be cool. It's that industry stuff, though. It's like people are like industry friends, but DeMar DeRozan's from LA. You know what I mean? And so him and Kendrick, they cool too. And he's going to choose LA over Toronto. It's just what it is. And I think that Drake catching feelings in these situations makes him look bad. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta be able to separate this.
Oh, that shot will look kind of crazy though.
The
shot will look kind of crazy though.
He got a cockeyed statue. That's crazy.
Man.
But yeah, I mean, I do think this, man. Like, I never really liked, even when 50 used to do it, where it's like you pulling everybody into your beefs. Like, yo, let this be you and Kendrick thing, or you and Metro, or whoever. You know what I'm saying? But DeMar DeRozan, like, come on, man. I get it. But DeMar DeRozan, it's not like he's still in Toronto. He left Toronto a long time ago. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, I think, you kind of let that go. Or maybe this was more of one of those looks at a dude that used to be down with the team and is not down with the team anymore. So it could be twofold.
I'm gonna say this. I can see how Drake can feel like, yeah, I ain't fucking with that guy. Because like he was really my homie. I can see if it was a hometown thing or whatever. If I'm really a homie and that's hometown, you got love for them, you could just stay neutral. But you've made your bed. You said what side you choose. So you can't be mad at Drake feeling a way about it, or him being like, I don't fuck with him. I just feel like the stuff on the court side of the game was kind of corny. Like, you staring me down with eyeliner on, dog. You're not scaring me. And I'm in a game. I'm playing. I know you're not about to do nothing. Like, that whack fake attempt at an intimidation tactic, that was corny. And then what you said on the thing about if they gave him retire the jersey or something, you'll take it down. Like that shit's corny, bro. And whatever little accent you want to do for the day. Like if people call me a Drake hater or whatever, it's just some of the shit that he does is just kind of corny to me, man. It's just like is nothing that I see as a big deal, but it's just like these type of antics is things why I say the guy is going to continuously be corny to me. But I do think that he has a reason to not fuck with DeMar DeRozan.
I do think this, a lot of,
and I was really a boy, I'll feel some type of way. Yes,
I do think that Drake moved, and Nicki does this too. A lot of the moves that they make, I think, are influenced by moves that Jay-Z would make, but see, Jay does it in such a more subtle, cooler, background type of way. You know what I mean? Even with the DeMar DeRozan thing, we've seen like Jay even with athletes and the whole not Lance Stevenson, you know what I'm talking about, dude to play with the Wizards. When he made the blow the whistle or whatever. Like these are things that I guess they feel like in their mind that Jay will boss up and do in the background, but it gets very apparent and in your face when they do it. You know what I mean? And Jay knows how to move subtle and knows how to move quietly and knows how to handle these things in the back end without even having to say a word. But when it comes to Drake and Nicki too, sometimes it's like it's so in your face. I mean, you heard when Nicki posted something. It was clearly a shot at Megan. I don't know if you've seen the Megan documentary.
Yeah, man, but
what did Nicki say? She said, she's talking about the sales. And I guess, Megan's album didn't really hit the numbers that it needed to. She says, can't call the cops every time you flop. Just saying.
Hey, you want to know something about that, though? She shouldn't have released part 2 that soon.
Yeah.
That's her team and them dropped the ball on that, because the first Megan album, the part 1 of that, it was the highest selling female rap album of the year until Glow topped that.
Mm-hmm.
And you should just let that sit there. You in good company. You good. You could ride the rest of your year off cool. Do your documentary or whatever. Replan on what you gonna do for the next year. Getting some ads for around Christmas time or whatever, and little endorsements, and then ride off. You had a good year. You released that part 2 and you got greedy with it and it flopped. And honestly, it was very soon. And that was kind of a crazy thing to do following your homegirl Glow dropping the week beforehand. She still got some albums, some streams and stuff she's racking up. So I didn't really understand that move. And I didn't peep the whole Meg documentary, but from the clip that's circling around for the Tory stuff, I know people are saying.
I was going to say something about that clip. You're referring to the animation reenactment of that infamous night with Tory and Megan, correct?
Well, it was no, I didn't even get into it to even see that.
You ain't seen that?
Nah, man.
Oh man, that animation clip as well. Oh, you're talking about
I'm talking about what you said about Gayle King, and it's just like, it's like everybody, and I hate that when you have an opinion about it, then all of a sudden you're a woman hater, and that's not where I sit on this. I'm looking at this from the sense of just common sense, right? So when she did the interview, first of all, we all knew she was lying, but it was like, okay, whatever. Well, everything will play out in court. Now, people do have a point by saying this is not new information. She had to admit to it on the stand. But to hear you say in this manner, like you voluntarily put this in your documentary and put it out here to be talked about again, and to talk about that in that manner, yeah, we do have to start questioning your credibility. And she's like, well, I can remember it was 1 time or 2 times when I was drunk, hell, whatever. And you're minimizing it. But when we're thinking about what transpired that night, you sleeping with this man is what kind of led up to the events of this emotional thing that happened. You feel me? Like, you could be as transparent as possible, but to act like that didn't play a role in what transpired that night is crazy, because those emotions spilled over to what happened that night and whatever y'all were doing. So yeah, there's motive, and it does matter on asking that question.
I normally don't do this, but since you haven't seen this, man, I'm going to send you this clip live.
Oh yeah.
I want you to look at it on your phone while I'm talking, and and if we could talk about this real quick, I'm about to text this to you right now because this clip is wild. And for the people out there who saw it, I'm speaking about the animation reenactment where she kind of looks like Pocahontas here, and you got to see this. It's part of the documentary. I didn't see the documentary, and I think I do want to see the full thing. We're actually going to have a write-up and a review on it on according to hiphop.com. Now, I do think that some of the things that you're speaking about, as far as like the clips that are being put out there, including this animation clip of the reenactment of the night with her and Tory, I think these are put out there to promote this documentary. Now, the documentary is #1 on Prime Video right now. Congratulations. I mean, that's an accomplishment as well. She got a lot out there. But I do think that some of these sensationalized clips are put out there to promote the documentary. And hopefully the documentary has more substance than, I guess, what we're seeing from the clips, because the clips seem to be almost, I don't want to say clickbait, but, they're promoting to get you drawn in and say, yo, I got to see that documentary. Now, that clip that I just sent Siobhan, for the people who haven't seen it, I mean, it's out there on the internet. I don't want to post it, don't want any copyright strikes or anything like that. But again, in the reenactment, everything seems to be very exaggerated, if you will. And I think that that's where people are coming from when it comes to this whole situation. Unfortunately, like you said, it comes across that you're hating and picking one side or the other, but based on the two individuals who are involved here, a lot of things seem to be exaggerated. But I think that the most damning thing here is his phone call that he made the night after. So that right there kind of throws everything out the water. But when I saw this clip, did you see it?
Crazy. That looks crazy.
I didn't know what to think. I'm like,
he was about to kill her. Like he was. Like,
I mean, the bullets coming in slow motions, like the Matrix,
like a horror movie.
Megan's looking like an Amazonian, like a Pocahontas or something. Like it's
So here's the thing, man. I don't have a side where I'm picking on this, but what I can say, even coming from the mind of looking at a trial, to say that who she's sleeping with didn't equate to what happened that night is bullshit, because the emotions, the stuff that transpired for the argument between her and Kelsey wouldn't have never transpired if she would have never slept with this man. There's something that went on between them in that love triangle or whatever, even from the stories of her trying to get him to leave Kylie's house. Like all of this seems like a passionate thing that happened that spewed over from the emotions of her sleeping with this guy. So to say it doesn't matter is bullshit, because it all has motive to what transpired that night in some form or fashion. Now, the only people that know what happened is those three people. And are we going to get ever the true story of what transpired? I don't think so. I really don't think so. And, if he has enough to get out of that in the appeal and prove his case, then he'll have his day in court again. But I kind of feel like he played himself when it came to how you handled that. In any way, I would have just took the deal, whatever 3 years doesn't go, and let it go about itself, unless you knew you was about to get up there on the stand and defend yourself, or whatever motive they had going with that. But we cannot act like the motive wasn't there for whatever led up to emotions run high for that emotion transpire. We can't just negate that happened. That's not how crimes work.
Michael Williams with the super chat says, where do you rank Gibbs at this point? He has a better catalog than a lot of rappers who we rank, who would be ranked higher than him in most people's GOAT lists. It's hard, and you're right. I do think that if we were in a different era, if Gibbs was in a different era where we could kind of compare apples to apples, I think it would be easier to rank Gibbs all time. Like, let's look at somebody like Jeezy. I think Gibbs is a better rapper than Jeezy. I think that album for album, I think that he has a better catalog. I think Jeezy has the impact. Jeezy has the singles and all of those things. And how do you rank one over the other? And I mean, it's hard, you know what I'm saying? I think it's those era differences, and I still think that we're finding ways to be able to rate people properly when we're living basically in two different eras, in the digital era and the non-digital era, if you will. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, but you know, if we're just being fair and we're looking at things for what they are and understanding that most hip hop artists, even the great ones, have 3, 4 strong albums in them, I would have to say that Gibbs has a strong debate for top 35. I mean,
Nah, bro. It's hard. Gibbs don't have an impact on anything with me musically.
but it's hard for artists in this era that did it in the way that he's doing it to even have that impact. The guys that were backed by major labels had, you know what I mean? I think that his impact really is on the digital era and the impact that he's making, I guess, from an independent standpoint, even though I know he's not totally independent. You know what I mean?
You know when I say impact,
Kind of like a Currency situation.
Currency has a bigger impact for me than Gibbs. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm Currency has been consistent for a long time, and I could recall when I first started listening to Currency and what that means, and like the impact is bigger for me there. Wiz's impact was bigger for me. Dom's impact
Wiz is big. Wiz is big.
So these are people who like had an impact. Now I like Gibbs. I do like Gibbs.
I think but you know what? I think he raps better than those guys. But yeah, impact wise, yeah, Wiz is something else.
Yeah, because I like Gibbs, but he doesn't have that impact that a lot of those artists on that list would look like, as far as how I could recall when they first dropped and whatnot.
Laura says, do a Jeezy versus Gibbs. I pick Jeezy. That's a good one. I mean, I think we should do that. Before we get out of here, obviously tomorrow's a big day.
You can't mention it.
You can't escape that. Did you see Cardi B's speech? And I mean,
you know what? As crazy if I seen it on my timeline, I never stopped to look at it.
Yeah.
I'm so like ready for this election to be over. From whoever wins, bro, is just like, I'm just ready for this shit to be over. I'm tired of text messages. I'm tired of emails. I voted already. Stop messaging me.
Went to the mailbox.
Damn, the call.
Went to the mailbox, man. The mailbox about exploded with all of that paper and stuff.
Yeah, man. Like, I just can't wait for it. Yeah, I can't wait for it to be over. You know, whatever line that people draw where they want to vote with, they're entitled to that. It's our American right. So, you know, y'all vote for who y'all want to vote for whatever reason y'all have, and I'll do the same, which I already have, and we'll see what the outcome is going to be. But I'm just ready for it to be over, bro.
I think hip hop's involvement this time felt a lot more forced than people are used to, and on both sides, you know, and it just seems like you said, I just wanted to be over. You know what I mean? Like, just wanted to be over, and it will be.
Yeah, man. Just the rhetoric, the narratives around it. Like, you start to see during election time, like how some people think and how ignorant some people can be, and how people go up in arms about politics. You know, I always feel you could feel how you want to feel, whatever. It's always about, to me, how I look at politics is like whatever suits you in the way you want to see your life for you and yours. You know, you vote to the best interest of you. So people will voice their views, even if it's wrong, right, whatever. But people feel like because you don't agree, then they want to go back and forth about that. One thing I try not to argue is political views, because at the end of the day, they see it from what aligns with their and theirs, whatever. And I vote to what is ever in my best interest. So,
as you should,
you know.
Hold on. We got something else before we get out of here. Michael Williams says, I don't know if he covered it, but Volume 1 turned 27 years old today. some of Jay's best ever songs on that album. Medley is still my favorite intro. I do think some of Jay's best songs. Poets and Rhymers, yes, I did. I do think that some of Jay's best songs are on Volume 1. My favorite song on Volume 1 is Imaginary Player, but A Million and One, low key. I don't say we don't talk about A Million and One a lot, but whenever we talk about Volume 1, we talk about Where I'm From, Streets is Watching. But A Million and One might be my second favorite song on that album, man. A Million and One is insane. Premier got down on that beat too, man. Yeah. And I like the remix better than the Rhyme No More transition. That's just me personally.
Man, it's crazy to see how many albums is turning whatever amount of years old now. I'm like, God damn, like I'm seeing albums from when I was in school and stuff like that. And I see that those are 20-something years old and stuff. Now I'm like, hold on, bro.
I'm losing track, man.
I'm out.
98 Primo remix, and ain't nothing different. I don't know what the hell niggas been sniffing. Chicken's still dipping. Chrome's in the whips. 4 weeks out the day, 4 days out the week, found me in the kitchen. Still in the game, nigga. Hook like glue. Poppy gave me 1 pie, but it cooked like 2. I'm a crook like you. Cats around my way was buying brand new whips and shit. What can I do? Knowing I'm supposed to style. I'm the hustler's poster child. Rock lizards and crocodile. Live ironic and whatnot with all that ice on the face of a watch just to make it hot. Now you see me on the stages. Rocks in the air looking like blue lasers. Never fool gazes. Act cool rages. I slap them with the 2 aces. Mac double 1. Nigga, I'm troublesome. All I got for chicks, hard dick, and bubblegum. Yo, man, nigga was spitting on that shit.
Man. I like how you spit Jay's verses, man.
Huh?
I like to see that you a real Jay fan, man.
Of course, I am a Jay fan, man. Volume 1, the way he's rapping on Volume 1, we're never gonna get that again. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a time capsule for sure. He switched up his style on Volume 2. I think there were remnants of the guy from Volume 1 on Volume 2 on maybe like Jigga What and like a week ago. But he kind of like, I think that's when he simplified his flow a little bit more so people could get it. And he successfully, made that transition. That's where he sold the most records.
Man.
But it's conversational Jay. But conversational Jay is still hard not like Jay.
Best Jay, in my opinion.
By far. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody has their lane where they're great at. I think that Scarface, to me, is probably hip-hop's best detailed storyteller when it comes to the feeling and all that. Obviously, Nas got a bunch of stories, but I think when it comes to conversational rhyming, nobody beats Jay in that arena.
Yeah. When Jay
imaginary players watch it,
Facts.
That's conversational Jay.
But yeah, man, see all these albums aging and the time going by, it's like, yeah, man, we'll see what this looks like. What's the albums we're talking about 10 to 20 years from now, Yeah,
and it's funny, man. Volume 1 was always kind of viewed as, I guess because it came after Reasonable Doubt and before Volume 2, is like, kind of like the drop-off for Jay. But over time, Volume 1 has really aged well. And I think time has been very kind to Volume 1. I've seen people go from Volume 1 being a flop, if you will, for lack of a better term, to people having it in their top 5 in Jay's catalog. I think it's actually gained momentum over time, which is incredible.
Yeah, and that's why I say, like, my top, like, when you asked me my top 5, like, episodes ago, it's always changing because I always go and revisit Jay's albums and I get a different feeling for him, like, over time when I listen to him again. It's like, damn. And so it's always hard to rate his albums because something that I didn't see is dope at that time, or when I listen to it, I may find it to be doper this time. So it's like, it's hard with Jay sometimes.
I go Reasonable Doubt. I think Blueprint's number 2. I think the Black Album's number 3. And this is where it gets difficult because even though Volume 2 has all of those hit songs, everything we just said about Volume 1, it feels like, even with the missteps, as an album, Volume 1 probably is the better album.
Yeah, man. It's just like
Probably is. You know, even though Can I Get Her is on Volume 2 and Jigga What, Jigga Who, Money Cash Hoes, you know, Money Ain't a Thing is on there. It's All Right's on there. It's a lot of songs, and Hard Knock Life is on there. There's a lot of songs on Volume 2. But Volume 1 may still somehow be the better album. I don't know. That needs to be explored. Because I think that's the conversation.
it's hard. It's hard when you're rating J records because I'm telling you, man, like you could listen to one thing that it just didn't hit for you at a certain part of time. You go back and be like, damn, it's got some joints. That's how I feel about like what record was it? I think it was like Blueprint 3.
Yeah.
Because I used to be like, man, Blueprint 3 was, and then I go back and listen to Blueprint 3 and I look at the joint styles on there. The joint with Cuddy on there, like it was just some joints on there, man. I was just like, yo, this Already Home. I'm like, there's some joints on there that, man, it's just like my top 5 for Jay always switches out.
Well, comparing Volume 1 and Volume 2 is similar to comparing the Blueprint 3 and American Gangster. Now, the dichotomy here and the interesting part about Volume 1 and what makes this a conversation in relation to Volume 2 is Volume 1 has some stuff that is really bad, but it has some stuff that's really great. Volume 2, it has some really high points as far as singles go. The album stuff isn't as dense as most Jay stuff because, you know, Jay albums, to me, the album songs are normally the foundation and the strongest songs on the album, with the exception a week ago.
What was like a dead point for you on Volume 2?
No, Volume 1.
Oh, Volume 1. Okay.
Yeah. I Know What Girls Like, and you and Sunshine. It has those moments.
Oh my God.
But it also has like very high moments. And the way that he's rapping on Volume 1, he's rapping better on Volume 1 than he is on Volume 2. Yeah. So that's what makes it such a difficult conversation, because I do feel like if the best stuff that was on Volume 1 was on Volume 2, it would be the best stuff on the album. But I also think that if some of that stuff that was on Volume 1 was on Volume 2, it'd be the worst stuff on the album too.
I mean, because like Volume 2, I even like the album fillers on Volume 2. You know, If I Should Die.
Yeah. Reservoir Dogs. Yeah, I gotta be fair, man. Even though I'm in a vacuum, I like who Jay is as an MC on Volume 1. As an album, I gotta be objective and say Volume 2 is the better album. And I would also put American Gangsta over Volume 1 as well, just because of the consistency of it all. You know, I just think that the low points on Volume 1 are just too low. And I just think that the high points just can't, you know, cover it up. Like it's unfortunate, because I do think that was him at that time trying to get to the point where he can make radio records. And he hadn't totally mastered that yet. And I think on Volume 2, he kind of got there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like even with Volume 2, I love those, you know, those album fillers on there. Like, you know, like we said, Reservoir Dogs, If I Should Die, that was another one.
A week ago, definitely one of those.
Stevie J produced on it.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. What did Stevie J produce on there?
He dissed Mace on there.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about. Shit.
Ride or Die. How many is gonna ride? Yeah, ride. Yeah, that joint. Yeah, that's one. And he was kind of spitting on that shit. Like, check the videos. You always be number 2. Like, yeah, come on, man. Like, even his album fillers on Volume 2 was hard.
I think the thing with Volume 2, and I'll say this so we can get up out of here, I think it's the production that might not have aged as well as some of those other albums we're talking about. I think that it was the production for Volume 2 was really for the time, for sure.
I don't know, man. I still love that album.
He's spitting, but you know, those beats, like even Can I Get Her, like it just sounds so 1998. Like, you know, it is what it is. It's gonna sound like that because it was 1998. But yeah, I think that he successfully did what he needed to do because he sounded like what was going on. But I will say this, man. When I listen to Jigga What Jigga Who now, I'm like, I think that's Timbaland's best rap beat. Like, that shit's crazy. Crazy.
That shit was hard. But you know, Tim has a lot of those ones though. Because a lot of ones that probably won't be his favorite are some of my favorites. Because I like the Put You on the Game record that he did for
That's just hard.
That's just hard.
The Petey Pablo beat that he did, you know what I'm saying? Raise Up was hard.
Man, like it's like
Tim
also did Dirt Off Your Shoulders, man.
Yeah, Dirt Off Your Shoulders is dope.
You know, it's like Tim has those ones, man.
Hey Poppy was crazy too.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get about it here, man. Appreciate you. And hit like and subscribe, everybody. Yeah, man. We need to have a show where we're just going through some of the best albums of this year because I think we can get a strong top 10 and anybody could pretty much get number one at that point. I think at least the top 5 could.
Yeah, we're gonna have to tack all these albums who have came official albums and put them on the board. That means everybody. So if you see Lupe up there and you see Glow up there, and nobody tripping because these are albums that drop this year. You know, we gotta include everybody on there, and we pick from that.
Yeah, I'm with it. All right, hit like and subscribe, man. We appreciate y'all. Enjoy the rest of your Monday and rest of your week. We out of here.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.